Isn't this a sports show?
I hope those people that listen to the entire show get the full experience. Super serious Tyreek Hill stuff. First hour and a half.
Yep.
Last 10 minutes, Josh had his underwear on backwards.
Almost entirely.
I was in Las Vegas for like 20 minutes, and I did get naked in the Las Vegas airport.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Not completely naked. I was sort of Winnie the Poohing.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, this is Joshua Brisco here for Joshua Brisco's Twitter account at JB Brisco. You can follow Joshua Brisco on Twitter at JB Brisco. This has been a commercial. Welcome back to Almost Entirely Sports. MVP-ness! Ha ha ha!
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's the last Almost Entirely Sports of the week, and boy howdy are we going to knock this one out with a bang. Welcome into tonight's show. I'm Joshua Brisco, across the glass from Rudy Salazar, across two panes of glass from Beards McFly, and tonight's guest list will go thusly. Shortly, we will bring you my conversations with both Tamba, Hali and Derrick Nnadi, the Chiefs' all-time number 91 and their current number 91, two of my favorite conversations I had this week. And then we'll spend some time talking about the Royals in the last couple hours of the show. Have conversations with Scott Barlow, Brady Singers, Hunter Dozier, Nicky, Lopez to bring you all of those in the last couple hours of tonight's show. In addition to one of our very favorite people to talk Royals with, David Lesky of Inside the Crown. He will join us at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and we'll build around that for just to make sure that we're gonna find a way to get all of these interviews in this last AES of the week. So I don't want to take them in the next weekend, bring them all around. Brady Singers already, you've got a really solid outing out of him since this conversation, and I will I'll say this: Scott Barlow, Brady Singers, Hunter Dozier, Nicky Lopez having pretty darn good weeks. Listen, I'm just saying, if we end up seeing McCole Hartman and Cornell Powell each catch a touchdown, Dan Sorensen a pick six in the preseason game tomorrow, I'm going to start thinking
that's just
that
normal stuff.
Well,
Sorensen's getting a pick six.
That's true.
Now, the weird part would be is I don't think he's going to be in the fourth quarter. And, Sorensen's only about fourth quarter interceptions.
That's a good point. Maybe he'll come in. If he comes in for the fourth quarter to play alongside Juan Thornhill for whatever reason, then...
Well, Juan Thornhill wouldn't be out there then. Because Sorensen's out there. Thornhill doesn't run with the ones.
I'm saying it's in the fourth quarter, and it's just Thornhill and
you
Sorensen
were making a joke,
and you tried to make a joke.
And then I was making a joke on top of the joke.
It is what it is. Beards, find. Will you go find one of the preseason games on the TV here? Not NBA.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Not the summer league games.
It's over with.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Who won?
The
Not
Kings
the
did.
Celtics.
Yeah, they kind of smashed the Celtics in the championship game.
The Kings won the summer league.
Yeah.
Got to be a good sign for their future. Probably gonna be making a finals run pretty soon, right?
Probably a bad sign for the Celtics.
Listen, in all seriousness,
though,
the Warriors used to own the championship league in the summer. Then they started winning all the championships. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I remember Kevin Durant going off in the summer league for the Warriors. Yeah, he was great. Did that not happen? You know what? I don't think that happened.
I think Beards, though, also said the Celtics are going to be losing a lot of championships now going forward.
That was not at all what I said.
I mean, they lost this championship,
Listen,
so the Summer League is a sign of things to come.
As
the Celtics Summer League team was this close to adding whoever the Kings Summer League star was.
The Celtics Summer League team has made more championship appearances than the Denver Nuggets has. Just saying.
I mean, I don't know if that's true.
You almost got to the end of that burn there, and
Don't mind me. I'm just trying to figure out where one of these preseason games is while also sweating to death.
The AC is not working in the control room, so you're
How
gonna.
about the Little League World Series?
I would rather not.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty
Can I
sure.
give you a really funny?
There it is, Beards NFL Network.
Really funny fun fact about the Little League World Series.
I'd love that.
So Tim Kirkjian was on ESPN Daily, and they did I think 2 years ago, because I don't think he was at last year's, obviously because of the pandemic. I don't even know if there was one last year.
Sure.
And the producer for there found out that 52% of the players, 12-year-old kids, are taller than Tim Kirkchin. Who's a very he's a I think he said he's 5'4".
He is a slight man.
And pretty much, I mean, obviously, like, he is a very knowledgeable baseball guy. So part of the reason why he's there is because he knows baseball. They said it was also because they wanted somebody who was about the same size as the kids, like it less imposing for him.
I mean, that's pretty good. Today,
Yeah.
Hunter Dozier was standing on second base next to Jose Altuve during the Royals game, and I know Jose Altuve is small. Do you know off the top of your head? Do you know how tall Jose Altuve is?
I would probably guess like 5'5", 5'6".
5'6".
Yeah.
5'6"
So
according to Google.
5'5", maybe 5'4".
Probably. That's probably about right. But like Hunter Dozier, not a small man.
No, I've stood next to Hunter Dozier. Like I was at I mean I can say it now because like they're out there when he was making like commercials and stuff for his new sandwich.
Yeah.
With Big Brothers Big Sisters, like we were there just to get a picture of him essentially. And Hunter Dozier, he doesn't look small like on the TV, but you see him in person, like Hunter Dozier's not small.
Here's me laying down teases for later in the show. I'm going to give you one of the best nuggets from talking to Hunter Dozier, and so make sure you get the full thing later on tonight. Do you guys know, he got to some
23.
of this information. What?
You asked if I knew. I said 23.
I'm just going to pretend that never happened. He mentioned one element of this that I remember there being a connection point to. And I guess I may have already told you guys this, so maybe this is maybe you're the bad people to be asking. But did you know what his first love was in terms of a sport?
No. I don't believe I talked to him about this with you.
Beard, did I tell you this? Do you remember? Do you know? I told you about the movie he loved.
Volleyball, maybe? I'm trying to think of something else.
I don't remember.
Hockey.
Okay.
Hunter Dozier really believes that if he would have stuck with hockey exclusively, he would have had to have moved out of Texas and moved north. But he really thinks that he probably could have ended up being a professional hockey player.
I mean,
he's built for it.
He looks like he could probably be a defenseman, like physically.
I feel like he's got the name for it too.
Oh, dude, a Dozier
dozing people out there.
Oh yeah. Because you have two ways you can go there. You can be the bulldozer thing, right? Which the Royals had the bobblehead for this year and everything. It's a good bobblehead. So you can be the bulldozer out there, or if you're even nastier, you can put them to sleep.
Ooh.
You make them doze off. You're the dozer. Or the bulldozer. Either one.
The bulldozer is out here dozing people to
Putting
sleep.
you to sleep. You can do a whole Sandman thing or the bulldozer thing. Anyway, there's a little tidbit of something from my conversation with Hunter Dozier.
He's also
We'll play later.
a pretty good athlete just based off the fact that he plays professional sports. So
Correct.
Yeah. I think a good amount, not every athlete, but a good amount of them, could play another professional sport if they really because dedicated to it because they're just good at it. Now there are exceptions. Jose Altuve,
Probably found a sport.
probably it.
Although
Soccer maybe, but
Pablo
maybe
Sanchez
he's got bad feet.
good across backyard sports.
Yeah.
He's elite everywhere while being about the same size proportionally as Jose Altuve is to Hunter Dozier. Pablo Sanchez to Pete Wheeler to Keisha Phillips. That's a relatively same size comparison, and it worked across a number of sports.
It did.
Speaking of, some of the greatest athletes of our time, Pablo Sanchez obviously being one of them. Without looking at the TV, maybe you guys already saw, did you see who is starting at quarterback tonight for the Philadelphia Eagles in the preseason game on NFL Network?
I know it's not Jalen Hurts.
Because he is sick with
Oh.
not COVID.
Oh,
So he is ill with not COVID.
is this quarterback elite?
It as much as Pablo Sanchez. Joe Flacco is on my TV right now.
Flacco, baby.
And that's how I know that football is back.
Joe Flacco.
Did you guys remember he was an Eagle?
I
Because I didn't.
Nope.
Until this.
I
the last
remember
week
him
or
being a
two.
Bronco.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So I remember seeing highlights of him throwing passes for the Eagles last week. So that's how maybe on Monday. So that's how I remembered.
I remember it came up at some point around whenever there was a brief report that the Eagles were trying to trade for Deshaun Watson, which may or may not be true. I don't know. But there was some mention of Joe Flacco is still out there getting some work. But I just simply did not remember him signing with the Eagles. And I guess it makes sense. You have a young quarterback that you don't really know what you think about just yet. But one Super Bowl, man. he won a Super Bowl on a rookie contract or it was the first year after the rookie contract or something. I can't remember. But it was a cheap deal with an elite defense.
I think he
won a Super Bowl.
I think it was the year before because he won the Super Bowl and then they paid him because it was like we have to pay him.
I think that is right.
Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Somebody else. Well, I think one of the other sort of odd quarterback victories, quarterback winning Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Sheesh. Was like right at the beginning of a new deal, so it's not. It wasn't exclusively Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger rookie deals. There was one little outlier, but only barely. Anyway,
Aaron Rodgers probably would have been paid when he won his. Not necessarily like quite paid what he is now, but because he's set for 3 years, he definitely wasn't on his rookie deal anymore.
Do you guys want to guess the career earnings for Joe Flacco?
Oh man, I bet
elite money, baby.
We've almost certainly played this game before, but
$160 million. I feel like I'm a little high. Maybe 140 actually.
$38 million. Elite money.
I'm trying to figure out if this is including
37. Is that too high?
So going through this year, including what he's going to get from the Eagles,
$36 million.
$171 million.
Oh, I should have stuck with the 160.
I was too low.
Did he?
Because he signed like $100 million deal with the Ravens.
He made almost $150 million over 11 years with the Ravens.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
But this says one season with the Broncos, he made 18.5. Is that?
Well, listen, when you're paying for an elite quarterback.
Is Joe Flacco a Bronco?
Yeah.
You don't remember this?
Yes.
No, why don't I remember? I mean, I type in Joe Flacco. The first thing pops up is Broncos.
I will.
remember
I'll go
this.
find his stat sheet.
Yeah. Wow. How do I not remember?
I don't think he played the entire season, but I think he played quite a bit, right?
I seem to remember the sad fans on Reddit that we did for the Broncos that year was exceptionally good, and I think Joe Flacco was like the primary target of that.
He was 2 and 6 as a starter. He started 8 games that year for the Broncos.
It's like I
he
remember
played against the Chiefs, right?
He almost had to have, I would assume.
I mean, it's kind of odds are probably.
Like I remember the Baltimore and I remember the Jets. I just have very little recollection of Denver. Yeah, he was with the Jets last year.
Brandon Allen started 3 games that year, and then Drew Lock went 4-1 in those last 5 games. So that was leading up to Drew Lock.
That's why I didn't remember, is because like
that season really was about Drew Lock. Yeah.
Oh. So the one game that Flacco played against Kansas City, 21 for 34, 213 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 8 sacks.
Woof.
For 72 yards, including a 41-yard sack.
Joe Flacco's best
in prime time, no, Thursday Night Football.
Oh!
His best season was probably 2014. He completed 62% of his passes, threw for under 4,000 yards, but just under, 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions.
Do you guys remember why we don't have a bleeping memory of the Joe Flacco game against the Chiefs in 2019?
I remember the giant sack.
Here's how I can explain why we have no working memory of this.
Anything.
You do. You absolutely do.
I don't know about that.
You do.
Is this
because Patrick Mahomes' knee was on the side of his leg?
I don't think that happened.
Unbelievable.
I remember. I remember that game. I just don't remember Joe Flacco being the quarterback.
That's the thing.
Wow.
I don't remember the final score.
Yeah.
I don't remember Joe Flacco being sacked a bunch. I don't remember Joe Flacco playing in that game. I don't remember who got those sacks. I don't remember the long sack. I remember in vivid detail watching Patrick Mahomes try quarterback sneak and then be stuck weirdly paralyzed on the ground, not being able to bend his knee, and then watching Matt Moore jog in.
I remember the really long sack.
I remember calling or texting my dad, simply saying the season is over.
Calling or texting your dad and saying, "Dad, I just want to tell you I love you. I don't know what's going to happen to us all here, but
I don't know what the future holds for us, but whatever happens, just know."
Wow,
it's
that
over.
is such a weird memory gap that I just don't remember anything about that game other than that play and the ensuing sort of chaos, and vaguely remembering Matt Moore being like all right, but not. I mean, I just don't remember. He threw a touchdown. I don't know who Matt Moore threw that touchdown to. I I remember LaShawn McCoy ran the ball 12 times for 64 yards in this game.
Nice.
He had a good game.
You could have, I think it might have been his best game as a Chief.
It's probably his only good game.
You could have told me that he was not even on the team at that moment. I would have totally believed you. Because seriously, I don't know. Because usually if you remember a game really well, the Super Bowl you might have 10 distinct memories from, You get the Niners posing, and you get Wasp, and you get the Damian Williams runs to immortality, you get Sammy Watkins, you get Bashad Breeland's interception. Like, they're at the top of your head.
When he worked Richard Sherman, like that was one of those plays where it was just like, somebody's going to offer Sammy $100 million just off that play alone.
But I remember all that stuff. With the Broncos game, I only remember that moment. It was like a black hole that opened up and sucked up all the other memories that would have come from that game.
I couldn't tell you any other memory from that game other than Mahomes gets hurt.
Nothing.
Matt Moore came in, and I feel pretty confident the Chiefs win, but I don't remember the actual final score of that game.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was close. I don't remember if it was a blowout.
I certainly don't remember it being a blowout.
All I remember is Patrick Mahomes getting hurt. A minute before halftime, in the final minute of the first half?
Because I even remember in the second half of the game, it obviously counted.
He was walking around on the sideline. It looked like maybe he was going to come back. We had all that. It was all this we don't know is he coming back?
Well, what I remember is that there were reporters leaving the press box to go down into the tunnel.
Yeah.
There were tweets about his family coming out down around the trainer's room or whatever. Then you started getting you got some. There was reports of a thumbs up, but I think Brett Veach was down in the trainer's room, and there were all of those things. The second half was basically a preseason game where you just look away from the screen and just start watching Twitter and try to figure out, hey, what do we know about Mahomes? Because this bleeping game doesn't matter.
Yep.
This team should be making a Super Bowl run, and the season might have just ended. Crazy.
Kudos to literally every member of the Chiefs for just being able to continue with your job, because I just assume if I was a receiver on that team or just anybody my mind would be so preoccupied, because it's just there's our that's our Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then they went on and won it. And he came back 2 weeks later, whatever, 3, something like that.
Yeah.
No big deal.
And Matt Moore almost beat Aaron Rodgers in a back and forth battle.
I remember that because at that point, Matt Moore was just the quarterback.
Yeah, and it was
wow.
it was oh wow, because Matt Moore obviously comes in from a high school football field in Florida or wherever the Chiefs assigned him from, because Chad Henne broke his wrist, I think,
ankle
in
training camp. Yeah,
and it was just oh wow, I was how did the Chiefs found a guy who is plenty competent enough to help the Chiefs win some games and allow them to still compete for the number 1 overall seed.
So if you're so interested, I did find the sad fans from that Broncos game,
which is crazy because that's also sad fans with Patrick Mahomes' knee on the side of his leg.
That's what I was doing. I pulled up the sad fans file to see what I had done for that, because usually what I end up doing, my commandments of sad fans is don't do injuries.
Right.
Because that's a sucky thing.
Yeah.
I was wanting to make sure
I did not know this, but I'm honestly stunned by that.
Sort of surprising, right?
I mean, kudos. I just did not know that.
Because if they're mean-spirited, that kind of sucks. But in this case, it was not mean-spirited. You probably want the Chiefs fans just grieving, I have to imagine, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what I was trying to see whether or not what I had done, but I think it's just sad Broncos fans because Joe Flacco was their quarterback and they got their bleep kicked in.
Maybe you just, at that point, you needed to be the shining light, the distraction.
We needed to rally together.
Trying times. Yeah, you wanted to be a unifier, not a
Let's all
divider.
laugh at Broncos fans.
Wow.
It really is.
Laugh at Broncos fans because the best player in football had his knee dislocated, and they lost to Matt Moore.
It is a weird position to be in as a Chiefs fans where, we have a team that we do believe is going to compete for the next 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if the wrong person gets hurt, and by the wrong person I mean Patrick Mahomes, at any moment, it's just immediate. Nothing else matters. When he got hurt against the Browns, there was a little bit of because part of it was it looked a little like it was just it's over.
He came off wobbling. They have a game to play in a week.
I'm also pretty sure I text my dad at that moment too, saying the season is over, because every time I see Patrick Mahomes get hurt, it's just it's over. Nothing else matters. Pack it up. Go home.
I was thinking
Done.
about that I think I was editing a story for Arrowhead Report yesterday. I think is when it was. And because the former guest friend, I'll call him a friend of the show, certainly great work on Arrowhead Report, Connor Christopherson, wrote a story about like best case, worst case scenarios for each position group offensively, you know, just like, hey, maybe this dude steps up, maybe this guy doesn't, whatever. And he wrote up about the quarterbacks, like Chad Henne's good in that spot, and, you know, they're going to keep trying to develop one of these young guys, but they haven't been able to do that under Mahomes, you know, just to find one of those young guys that eventually could take over for Henne or whatever. And I just crossed my mind the thought of Mahomes these last 2 years has had significant and scary injuries. It was the knee in 2019, and then last year it was very late in the season. But you get, I mean, in the playoffs, you get the toe and the concussion symptoms and all of that. And it just sort of, I don't know, it sort of reminds you how fragile all of that is.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it's not like Mahomes is out for 4 weeks. I think the Chiefs can go 3-1, not 4-0, because like it's Andy Reid, and kudos to them for finding guys like Matt Moore and Chad Henne, who every time those two have been put into a situation. I mean, Chad Henne on a 4th-and-1 play in the playoffs, you know, and it's a relatively easy pass. But I've seen quarterbacks miss that throw.
100%.
I've seen quarterbacks miss that read. Like I've seen quarterbacks mess up. Chad Henne just does what he's supposed to do. So kudos to them. But it's also knowing the fact that, like, again, if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, like, the odds of winning the Super Bowl are almost, it's not technically zero, but it's as close to zero as you can get. Like, it's basically over.
Listen, anything is possible.
So
True. I mean, if they were up by 30 in the Super Bowl in the 4th quarter, and then Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, I think they would win.
So
But
I think I'm going to say something that's going to sound insane, then I'm going to try to flesh it out.
Patrick Mahomes can get hurt, but they'll just give the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and they'll win.
I think that if Patrick Mahomes did not play a regular season snap, I think the Chiefs would win the AFC West.
Oh, yeah. I think I still agree with that.
Because I think
I assume with Chad Henne, like as knowing Chad Henne as the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Chad Henne could basically be Alex Smith a little bit.
Andy Reid.
The offense I think has evolved a little more from when Alex Smith was here. And maybe Chad Henne is a step below Alex Smith in terms of like skill level and all of that. He probably is.
I think you might.
But I think it'd be closer than you think.
I think you would probably get kind of like early Chiefs Alex Smith. Maybe not final year with the Chiefs Alex Smith.
I kind of think you get almost last year of Alex Smith.
But
because Chad Henne is not afraid to let it fly a little bit.
Point being though, I am with you where you would certainly. I agree with you. I think Andy Reid. It's Andy Reid's skill is that I watch Andy Reid turn Kevin Kolb into a competent quarterback and then trade him for a 2nd-round pick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Andy Reid made Kevin Kolb
another reason
like
to try to develop a young guy, by the way.
2nd-round pick-worthy quarterback. So, I'm 100% with you. If Andy Reid has just about any, but there's a right. Like, if it was Anthony Gordon or Shane Buechele, maybe it's different. Part of that's just because I just don't know what those guys are.
I think you're right. I think that there is absolutely a drop off somewhere.
But with Chad Henne, I think
that Henne thing might be possible.
It would. The Chargers would make it close. They're a good team. But we've seen Andy Reid just beat the Chargers time and time again.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you. I think it would be close. Maybe they only win the division by a game instead of 3.
Sure.
But I agree with you. And I think they could win a playoff game or two also. Winning the Super Bowl, probably not. But getting a playoff
absolutely.
win,
I think it would look similar to the Alex Smith sort of scope, generally speaking. Let's take a break. Whenever we come back, I've got 2 conversations for you this hour that I had this weekend. One with Tamba Hali, one with Derrick Nnadi. They are both stupendous. We'll start with the current number 91, my conversation with Derrick Nnadi, who, if you don't already, you're going to love in about 10 minutes. That's next.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
We're going to play Andy Reid sound. It's thoughtful and interesting. Why don't you get turned to that, you damn animals?
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I've made you wait till Thursday to hear conversations I had on Sunday, and I am sorry for that, but I don't think we've overhyped it. I think it's worth the wait. Got to talk to Derrick Nnadi back on Sunday out at the big ADA sports memorabilia giant event, signing with ADA and all of that. And I enjoyed all of the conversations, but it would be hard for me to argue that I enjoyed any of them more than talking to Derrick Nnadi. He had his press conference during training camp where someone asked what he did over the offseason. He talked about how he went jet skiing and it was the best day of his life. He also is just a genuinely good storyteller, a thoughtful person that you're going to learn some things about Derrick Nnadi, the football player, and Derrick Nnadi as the guy that found that he really does enjoy a good jet ski. Here is my conversation with Derrick Nnadi.
Sitting down right now with a professional football player, defensive tackle, fine, but jet ski enthusiast Derrick Nnadi is sitting down with us here now at the ADA autograph signing out here at Harrah's, North Kansas City. Derrick, how you feeling right now? I know you didn't get any reps in the first preseason game, but how's your body?
Body's feeling well. Feels refreshed being able to sleep in my own bed.
Yeah. So with that being said, getting the chance to kind of refresh that way, you've obviously been doing a lot over the course of the training camp so far. How's training camp been? How's it been in that defensive line group with Chris moving around? Jaron Reed joins the crew. What's that defensive line room been like?
Honestly, it's been very well thought of, well planned out for the whole D-line. I feel like we're all in a great space of just where we're at, where we need to be. I feel like it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun having Chris on the edge, doing what he does best, having me and Jay Reed dominating the inside, having all the edge rushers like Frank Clark on the outside, as well as the young guys, Tershawn Warren, Colin Saunders, Tim Ward. He's up and coming. I'm really looking for how he's going to be this year. All the young guys, Joshua Kando, Tyler Clark, all these young guys coming in to add their spice to the pot to make things such a better dish,
Yeah, it's a crazy group. I mean, last night, going into the third and fourth quarter, you saw Turk out there and Colin Saunders out there. Like, it felt like they were in the backfield the entire game, even just in the preseason. I mean, the depth seems absolutely crazy all the way through that group.
There's no downside, that's for sure.
Yeah. What are you working on over the course of training camp so far? Whenever you do get work in the preseason, the season comes around, what's something that you're trying to add this year that maybe hasn't been a part of your game up to this point?
Well, just like every year, I try to just fine-tune my skills. And one of the things that I was more dealing with personally, that even my coaches been noticed, that there's a switch sometimes that some guys need to find, that where they click in, they're unstoppable. And I guess for me, a lot of my coaches noticed that they sometimes believe that I don't really believe in my own skills at times. Because I'm my own biggest critic. Because if I do something wrong, I'm looking at that 5 times, just like, man, I could have did that better. Oh, I could have did that better. Like, literally after the play, I'm like, dang, I could could have did that better. Man, I know what I did wrong. I need to get better at that. And that's one of the things that I feel like has been hindering me at times, but getting me better at the same time.
Sure.
So, at the end of the day, I just got to just tell myself, I got here because I've been doing things to the best of my ability, and I got to continue doing things to the best of my ability, knowing because I worked at it, I've trained for it, I'm ready for anything.
It seems like lots of guys have different strategies like that of, some guys are able to compartmentalize more and just play and then look at it after the fact. But, I mean, if you're kind of doing that self-evaluation every play, I have to imagine there are times, like you said, when it, ends up being something that allows you to capitalize on a play or two later where you are kind of fixing your approach. And sometimes it's got to get in your head, right? I mean, how are you striking that balance so far this year?
A lot of times I'll tell myself, there was a moment during the season. I talked to one of the vets, Okafor, and I'm like, man, I feel like I feel like I didn't do a good enough job for this game. He's like, Nnadi, to be real with you, bro, you're a nose. I mean, a quiet day for a nose is really a good day.
Yeah.
Nothing's going down in your gate gap. You've been balling. You've been playing at a high level time and time again. So, like, myself, I was like, at the end of the day, let me just look at the film. Let me see what I'm doing. Let me review the film. Go on reviewing things I've done. I'm like, okay, that's a good play. Okay, that's a good play. That's an okay play. That can be better. I blame my defensive coach, and I appreciate him for what he did back in college, Odell Higgins. He's probably one of the main dudes that really made me critique what I'd be doing. If it's a good play, what can you do better at that play? Just self-evaluation to get yourself that much better. So, like, where I'm at now, it's more just if I've done well, good job. Next play, if you did good job, learn what you did that made it a good play, and try to redo it again or even better. So it's just all just correcting and then just producing.
Whenever you're finding like those things, in however specific you can get, like what is it that you go, I should have done? Is it your hands? Is it your feet? Is it? I have no idea what goes into being an excellent nose tackle, in the NFL.
Funny you say that. My coach in college, he said, everything comes down to your stance. He said, if you don't have a good stance, you don't have a good play. And it didn't hit me till I got into the league how right he was. Like, if I'm watching the film, like, if I feel like I got a bad play, I'll be like, all right, let me see how my stance is at the beginning. Because if I don't have the proper stance at the beginning, you can tell, you ask all my guys in the D-line room, I was like, everybody's like, okay, Nnadi. So Nnadi gets in his stance, y'all can just leave him alone. He's already locked in. Like, there were times in games I catch myself, I'll get my stance so slow because I'm just doing it, like, just in steps. All right, bet. Okay, get my stance. Feet shoulder width, wide base, hand ready, I'm good to go. And it just, they would see me doing it in slow motion and everything because I tell myself, I have a great stance, I'm going to have a good play.
People have to watch for that now, to watch you get into your stance on the field, because you're going to probably be able to see that, right? Like, you got to be meticulous with it.
Got to, especially in this league. Every single inch you can to get yourself better, get you that much closer.
I'm going to kind of steal a question that you were asked. I mentioned the jet ski thing at the beginning, just because it made me just happy to hear you talk about how much fun you had as being one of the things you're able to do this offseason. I also, like, the whole Randy Reed thing, that's going on around there. His whole deal has been jet skis. Is that legit? Do you was that doing a bit, or are you actually having the best days of your life on a jet ski?
I am. I'll show you the picture right now. See, that's me right here on the jet ski.
It looks like the best day of your life.
Absolutely, man. I swear. So, like, it was probably one of those days. One thing about me that I'm trying to fix, I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to so-called have a vacation. I never really had one. So this 4th of July, I was like, let me take this time to really just unwind and really enjoy myself and just try to have fun. Go to 4th of July, get on the boat, and then one of the things I wanted to happen, I want to go ride some jet skis. I haven't done that since college. Let me ride some jet skis. Bring the jet skis in. I'm like, all right, I don't want to do nothing else. Let me get on this jet ski real quick. They give me the little instructions, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, I don't need to hear nothing else. I'll just let me go. I'll learn on the way. A little bit, I'm just giving a little bit of gas, just trying to get used to it. And the second, I was like, you know what? I see everybody just really just cruising at full speed. If I just let it go, just go full speed, whatever happens, I'll be good. I crank as hard as I can. I'm like, woo! I was just zooming everywhere. There was one moment. I don't know. I prepped this so well. I made sure there was a boat that came by. I was like, okay, big boat. I mean, there's gonna be a big old wave. So I'm like right behind it. So I'm just distance away, zooming fast. I'm lifting. Ooh. ooh, okay, all right, this big one's coming. I crank it a little bit more. I go flying. I'm like, yo. I'm like, did anybody see that? Please tell me somebody saw that. It was amazing.
You never ate it once. You never you never cranking it too much, never fell off the entire day? I mean, not only a jet ski enthusiast, a jet ski expert at this point, I think. Go ahead and go through and critique your technique on the jet skis if you need to. It seems like you're doing a pretty good job on the defensive line front. Derrick, thank you for making some time for us today. I appreciate your stories and your breakdown of how your job works.
Appreciate you.
There's Derrick Nnadi, conversation from the weekend. Just really genuinely enjoyed talking to him for all obvious reasons. And really, I am looking forward to the next time he's on the field. I'm sure that I will see him in slow motion set the feet, wide base, move down, and you're gonna know that stuff going on is also just like, this isn't fair, but I think this is probably somewhere in the stereotype. If you were gonna go, all right, what position on the field, has the least that hinges on your technique? Being the one tech or the nose or whatever, depending on the defense changes and all that. But to be a big interior defensive lineman who is there mostly to eat up space like that, that's probably what most people would answer. That's probably what I would think. But to hear him just go through every single rep where his head is at, and to be so critical and to have enough information about the techniques and about how much work goes into it, to be able to be so critical about just about every snap, about every game, you can remember the good stuff and the bad stuff together, and to just be as meticulous with it as he's talking about there, I just think is so interesting, especially at a position like that we don't always get a great look at or great breakdowns for.
Well, and he's kind of the, I don't want to say like the forgotten guy of the defense. Everybody knows who Derrick Nnadi is, but it's the position we talk about the least, right? Like it's edge rushing, or interior pass rushing, it's cornerbacks, it's the linebacker play. We forget about Derrick Nnadi a lot, and part of it is kind of like what he talked about. That's kind of what he wants, right? That means he's doing his job. He's having a good day. But since the Chiefs had drafted him, that first he was in that first draft class, the Beach's first draft class, wasn't he? The Breland Speaks and all, wasn't
yeah. He's the best pick from that draft class.
That draft class has been a disaster.
Yeah.
With the exception of Derrick Nnadi, who's just been a very solid player since the day he's been in this league. He
might be the best player that does not get a lot of talk on this team. Yeah. To try to strike that balance there of like, for sure. I think if you talk about, if someone asks me what I think of Derrick Nnadi, or if we, and I ask Ryan Tracer, if we ask Seth Kaiser, whatever, we're going to have similar answers of like, no, he's incredibly good at a very difficult job. But because he doesn't live in the offensive backfield, he does not get the spotlight necessarily.
For sure.
And the Chiefs are lucky to have him there in the middle of that defensive line. We'll take a break. Whenever we come back, we'll hear from Tamba Hali, a guy who got plenty of the spotlight in his time on the field. We'll talk about playing defensive end, about switching positions, as he and Chris Jones have both done in their careers, now with Jones doing it this year, and also what he's done with his life since football. Tamba Hali's next.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
But that's not where this show makes its money. You guys know that. We make our money talking about the Chiefs. And dunking on people on Twitter.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Next conversation up here on tonight's Almost Entirely Sports is my sit-down with the one and only Tamba Hali. In a Chiefs organization that has historically had so many excellent pass rushers, I think Tamba belongs right up there near. If we could do a Mount Rushmore of Chiefs pass rushers, and we would leave off another Mount Rushmore of elite pass rushers. Yeah. Even if you don't go prior to Derrick Thomas, if you make him the line of demarcation in terms of eras, I mean, it's just elite, all throughout the history of the NFL, of the Chiefs. And Tamba was always one of my very favorites. I got a chance to talk to him about being one of those elite pass rushers and what he's done since he retired, formally only retiring just back in May, signing a deal to formally retire with the Chiefs. A lot of things to talk about with Tamba Hali. I enjoyed every minute of it. Here's our conversation.
Tamba, thank you for joining us here today. How is it out there getting to sign some things for some fans, but you get to be around some people again?
Exciting. I've been home it's out with the kids, raising kids and making music, and but to get around the fans, it's always exciting. I did it for about 20 years, and it's always nice to see people who cares about football.
Yeah. Did anybody out here today bring anything weird to sign, or have you, or if not, what's the weirdest thing you remember having someone bring to you over the course of your career?
I've gotten some weird things. I've gotten like a Coke from like 89, like a Coke bottle.
There's a Coke bottle? Okay,
yeah,
sure.
So I've gotten some cool things. I've gotten a bobblehead, but
nothing crazy though. Nothing nonsense. All right, that's
crazy.
Probably for the best. You mentioned that you've been working on music, and I will tell you, I was on the way in. I had missed that you had a new album that came out earlier in 2021, but I had heard some of your earlier stuff. I was listening to some of the new stuff on the way in today, and it sounds great. Like you're making genuinely excellent music. How much of a part of your life has that been in this stage of your career?
I enjoy making music, trying to bring light to some issues overseas. I'm from Africa.
Right.
I love the Afrobeat movement. It kind of fit what I want to do with music. Apart from that, I'm just having fun though. I'm not trying to pursue it with a huge ambition of, being famous around the world
right.
for singing songs. But it's always fun working in the studio with guys, making music and releasing it. The whole process is pretty cool.
It feels like the fun comes through. Like it is fun music. But if you haven't checked out, I'll suggest to anybody listening right now, you don't need it to be the thing that you're known for, I suppose, with everything you've already accomplished. But people should listen to it because it's a lot of fun.
It's good music.
Have you kept up with some of the things the Chiefs have been doing over the course of this offseason? Some of the other pass rushers that have been here as of late, or the new look offensive line? Has any of that caught your eye in sort of the recent iteration of the Chiefs at all?
I followed a little bit, not too much. The offensive line is what I saw the Chiefs did a great job bringing guys in. As far as defense, I think we're still there. I don't know what's going on with our pass rushers right now. I don't want to talk about it either.
Sure.
I'm hopeful that our coordinator will put some packages together and get some of these guys rushing.
You don't have to talk specifically about Chris Jones, but I'll give you the rundown at least a little bit. He's been excellent as an interior pass rusher the last few years. But this year he's getting a lot more work at the edge. He said he lost some weight and did some yoga this offseason. He looked good in the preseason game last night. What does that take to be able to play? I mean, if it's both edges, if you're playing some in the middle, trying to make that transition. I mean, you obviously moved around as you were a hand in the dirt and then also a stand-up linebacker. Like, how much work goes into an offseason of learning a different position like that?
The defense they're playing obviously is a 4-3, so it's going to allow him to use his length. He's a tall guy and he's strong, so he wants to have space to use a little bit of his speed as well to get to the passer. Endurance is key playing on the edge. You need to be endured to go the long way. I'm sure Chris, with his type of training and his mindset, he's gonna do well at the position.
You also earlier this year were able to sign the one-day contract to retire a Chief formally and everything. What went into that, and what was it like to get to go out there? Now you got to go back out onto the field at Arrowhead again and kind of enjoy that moment with your family.
Really, the family, I got to say it's the family, because my kids didn't really get to experience my career because they're young, and for them to come around and see all the people that I kind of grew up with, Allen and those guys who I've been around for the whole time with the Chiefs, to see them and kind of celebrate the career that I had here. It was fun. It was definitely rewarding for my family.
Over the course of your career, is there one guy that jumps to mind if I ask you who gave you the most trouble? Like who on the other side you knew going into that week was going to be a battle, even more so than just, anybody else you'd run into?
I say every time we played Joe Thomas, it was going to be a battle because Joe just was a really great blocker. Yeah. I mean, we did it in college and we did it in the pros. There were other guys like that played when I was younger. Starks, the big guy for Steelers. I mean, the guy was big.
He was big to you.
No, he was big. I mean, really big guy, and you knew you couldn't just bully him. You couldn't just run into him. So, you knew you had your hands full. I'll say those guys were like 6'8", 6'9". They really pose a threat of you coming around the edge. You have leverage on them, but, they cover ground quicker.
I've always been interested, and I have to admit, have no comprehension of what all goes into the technique side of all of that. Because, you see a kind of a bull rush and you get it. Somebody spins through whatever. But, I mean, you had such an arsenal of different ways that you could try to beat somebody. How much work were you putting in, leading up to that week and scouting the guy you're going to be going up against? How much of kind of pass rushing with a plan did you have to go into? How much of it was being physical at the right moment? What was that balance like for you?
Well, the entire week we study film. I study film. It's like a religious thing. If you're going to play this game, this is like a key thing that you have to do. You study film. I mean, and then you watch every guy. You break them down. You see where they're vulnerable. You see where they get beat. You see where they're strong. You do that for every player. And then you exploit it during practice. You see what they're good at and try to beat that and see what they're not good at. And try to mimic that with your the guys at practice. So you have to put a lot of planning together. The way I planned, I had a whole book of different guys. I knew what they were good at. I had a game plan to beat them. This is how we'll kind of approach the game, and then it goes from there. Throughout the game, it's a game within the game. For me as a pass rusher, is one thing you have to count on is be relentless. Because that's the will. If he breaks your will, I mean, all your moves ain't gonna work. So be relentless.
You also were relentless in pregame work, right? I mean, you had. I don't want to put the wrong label on it, but I mean, I think you have one of the most sort of infamous pregame routines as far as from anyone that I've ever heard. Like, what was it that gave you the idea that, what I'm going to do? I'm going to push harder in pregame than anybody else on this field and then still have juice left in the tank in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, for me, I thought it was always key as far as football players to kind of be ready to go.
Yeah.
So we used to do 2 a days. Practice in the evening, go hard in the morning. So I felt like before a game, I want to get tired. So when I come back out, there's no sign of this going to be tired. You're ready to play. You've been playing. So yeah, that first win is kind of what I do. I kind of come in early and I kind of get tired, just warming up. And then I rest for about 2 hours and we're ready to go.
It's unbelievable because also there was never a moment where I don't think I ever watched the television. You know what? Tamba Hali looks tired. I think what just now was the first time I've ever said that phrase, and I will never say it again because it's never been true.
We get tired. It's just the mindset,
Yeah, sure.
I train on the beach. I take what we did at Penn State. We'll go to California, Torrance, California, and train with the Gracies. Those guys would come out on the beach. We measure 110 yards, and we're getting it on the sand. 110s, and you go through it, and then after that you pass rush, so you get on the field. It's like, no, this is not as hard.
Right.
So long you're in shape, just go.
Well, Tamba, thank you for making some time for us here today. I know you've had a very busy day so far. And anytime you ever, need a album review, you want to talk about pass rushing again, you let me know and we'll make it happen. I'll be happy to talk to you any day of the week, and I imagine I'll run out of energy first.
I appreciate it.
Tamba Hali with us here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Just good stuff all the way through from Tamba. Listen to go find his music on Spotify. Just go search Tamba Hali. Realize that you're listening to music made by one of the most fun pass rushers I've ever watched. Grew up loving to watch. Loved talking to him. I feel like we scratched the surface. While that was playing back, I think Rudy and I talked about like 3 other things that we could have absolutely talked to him about. It just got a good energy, a good conversation there. So
These defensive linemen are fun, man.
They are. Across the board. You got good personalities in the trenches there. If you missed any of our other Chiefs conversations throughout the week, that are up on the AES podcast page. Dan Sorensen, Mecole Hardman, Cornell Powell, and also Jordy Nelson all made that rotation. But that does it for our football conversations from the weekend. Starting in a few minutes, baseball time. Scott Barlow, Brady Singer, Hunter Dozier, Nicky Lopez next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
My favorite memory of this last run of Royals players is every time this year that I said they're going to be a 500 team, and then everyone yelled at me.
Of course you make it about you.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I think of all of our generic music bumps, this one feels the most generic. Right?
It's also maybe got the most slapping beat out.
It's got a nice little vibe to it.
Kind of makes me happy.
But I just feel like this one doesn't. I would not. If I just heard this song in the wild, I think I would say it sounds like it was made for a car commercial.
I was gonna say this is definitely in a Disney original movie.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But car commercial is solid.
Something. It's in one of those categories. Yeah. Anyway. Anywho. Which anywho do we want to use there? I love your
whips, because pictures.
Ooh, I like that. I always enjoy talking to really. I've honestly found ways to enjoy more the conversations with the athletes and also the press conferences. Press conferences are tougher, right? Because it's a bunch of people peppering one person with a bunch of questions in a way that isn't always conducive to an actual conversation.
It's not a personal setting where you really feel like you get and you can usually tell that, like, just obviously using the interviews we heard last hour, like you could hear more of a personal interaction in both Tamba and Derrick Nnadi.
It takes more time to you get time to kind of
you get a chance
get each other's vibe
talk
figured
to each
out
other ahead of time. To say hi and whatnot, and then you can kind of like dive in a little bit. You can build a rapport with that person.
Also, in person versus over the phone is different, and that really is one of the advantages that I think is going to even if you are not necessarily the world's biggest baseball fan, I think you're really going to enjoy the interviews we'll bring you this hour. We'll talk to Brady Singer. I already talked to Brady Singer, Hunter Dozier, and Nicky Lopez. These are conversations from last weekend out at the big signing event out there at the Harrah's in North Kansas City with some help from the folks over at ADA. Shout out to Brad from ADA for helping make all this happen for us. And we'll start with Brady Singer. Again, he's had an excellent start since this conversation. And is it my credit that that's happening? Probably. I mean, most likely, yeah. I think it would be ridiculous to insinuate that it wasn't thanks to me. But I'm interested in a situation like this, and also, again, enjoy the conversation in a setup like this, to get to chat about a whole bunch of different things. And there's still plenty of stuff whenever we talk to either current or former pitchers about like the analytics and spin rate and all of that. There's always, I have my inclinations towards using as many of the numbers as you can get because information is good, but also you don't want to be overwhelmed by it. I understand that. And I was really intrigued by what Brady Singer was going to, what his mindset is as a pitcher. We get into stuff about the changeup that he's been working on that hasn't fully landed, and also, some ups and downs over the course of this season, his time in Omaha with his rehab start. So let's hear from Brady Singer, my conversation with the young Royals pitcher from this weekend.
Sit down. I mean, we asked him to, but he did sit down. And Brady, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm excited to talk to you about here in a few minutes. But first of all, thank you for being here. And how are you excited to actually interact with human beings again in an event that has people around you?
Yeah, it's super cool. It's definitely excited to come out here. I heard there's the public signing, get out there and be with some fans. It's something that we obviously haven't been able to do, especially last year with the COVID stuff going on and no fans. But I've got a little bit of it this year. People at the field kind of interact with them a little bit. At the beginning of the year, it's still kind of tough, but it's starting to come around. And, starting to get out there a little more. And I love it. I love being out here with the fans and getting to see them and putting a smile on their face.
Yeah. Oh, well, we were just talking to Scott Barlow earlier, and I asked him about the Field of Dreams game on Thursday. I don't know if you had a chance to watch much of it, but in terms of fan environment and kind of a whole aesthetic around the game, what did you make of that, and what do you think about the idea of baseball traveling a little bit more to some places that don't have major league teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. They obviously based it off of a movie that is extremely famous, and going out there and it's a different field. That's cool. You get to play in the corn and, just the environment, everybody's watching, it's just super cool. I love it. They've played a lot of different games, different places, London and stuff like that. So I would personally love to do it, get outside the stadiums, get into a new environment and do stuff like that. So I thought it was cool, and I thought the MLB did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I did too. I'd love to see more of that. And even if it's, Royals played in Omaha a few years back, a chance to travel around for other baseball events like that just seems super cool. Yeah. I'm always curious and always excited to talk to pitchers because I just don't feel like we being outside of the pitching world, have a very good idea of all of the little intricacies that go into everything that you guys do. Is there something like that where you go, oh man, most people just don't understand this part of something that everyone watches, every single day? We watch guys pitch, but what do we miss for the most part?
I would think that, just a little bit of, the mechanical part of it. If something goes wrong very smallly in a mechanical, mechanics, while pitching, anything can happen.
Right.
There's so many things, the lead arm, the back leg, the turn, the everything that, people are just watching the outcome of the pitch.
Right.
They're just watching, I threw a ball, I threw a strike. But, what goes into the body and the power and the science of everything, the rotation of the ball is just everything. If you were to break down, from the first step to release, there's a billion things that no one has any idea, about. And, some of us pitchers don't even know because there's so much information on it, especially in, this new day and this new era with all the analytics and stuff. There's just so many things now that are so different from back then. I feel like back then there was, obviously a lot of thought put into it. Mechanical stuff, I feel like it's pretty similar. But the science behind everything now, with the rotation of the ball and, spin rates and, all the different stuff, it's just, a lot of people don't know about it, but it's very interesting. Some people don't want to know about it. I'm kind of the old school guy that, just kind of does, what I was taught when I was little,
right?
Almost kind of stuff like that. I never really got into the science. I'm starting to get into it a little more, but yeah, it's just something that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, well, I mean, you may have answered some of this already, but I was going to ask, what is that balance of being interested in some of the numbers and some of the science? So I think it's interesting, but I certainly wouldn't know how to implement it. And then obviously you're watching the film and you're watching your own mechanics. Are you watching other guys as well? Like, what is that mixture like for you?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't get caught up in it. And that's something I feel like I've done a good job of, is that, you can dive into the information, every single bit of it. There's billions of things that you can sit there and focus on. But if you take that to the mound and you're thinking about how am I getting this guy out and where everything is going and everything I'm doing, science and mechanically, you're going to blow your head off.
Right.
You're just going to explode mentally. I feel like you can't do all that. And that's something that, I kind of like with my quick windup. I don't have to think too much. I just have to think of where am I throwing the ball and what do I think the hitter's going to do with it at that time. So I don't really put it into motion a lot with the science part of it. After the game, I can go back and look at it and, think about it that way. But during the game, there's no sense in thinking about all that because you're just going to, like I said, mentally distract.
You can't have a rosin bag and like a 3-ring binder on the back of the mound. That's probably not going to work. Yeah, that makes sense. You've talked a little bit about kind of in this phase of your career trying to develop a third pitch that you can use a little more often. And again, it's something we talk about all the time. But what goes into that? Like, how much do you work on that between starts? How much do you try to work in? I mean, I think you talked at last start about how you kind of want to work with it some, but you want to make sure other stuff is working. What's that balance like? Because it seems like a very precise sort of thing that needs to be built.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've worked on my whole career, that third pitch, and something that's gonna, I'm gonna get it, and it's gonna help my career tremendously. And I can't wait for that time to come. But right now, the only thing we can do is work on it, throw it in games. Like I said the other day, when first two pitches aren't working, it's very hard to go to your third pitch.
Yeah.
It's very hard to compete when you don't have your best stuff. And when you're on the competitive side of things, you don't want to throw your third best offering.
Right.
I said, when the first two don't work.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Especially in such a competitive environment like that. I threw it when I was on the rehab assignment, felt great with it, got a lot of swing and misses, got a lot of ground balls with it. But that was an environment that I felt, 100% comfortable throwing it in because I knew I had to work on it. You could tone back the competitiveness a little bit and work on stuff in a rehab assignment. But, once you get in the big leagues, it's full competitiveness. So I can't wait for the day for everything to be working. I can come out there and throw that third pitch and have confidence in it. And, I do have a lot of confidence in it. But, like I said the other day, when the first two pitches aren't working very well, it's very hard to go to that third pitch.
You mentioned the rehab start in Omaha, and it's kind of interesting because, with Lynch and Kowar, who were obviously there and then came up and then went back, and now Lynch is back and has looked really good. You being at the major league level now for quite a while and then going back for the rehab start, did that give you a different appreciation at all of the difference in skill level from AAA to the majors? How big is that gap?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, obviously the skill level is crazy, but I think the information that you're giving up here, the game plan and stuff like that you're be able to do on the hitters. You just have a lot more here in the big leagues. There's just, there's pages and pages of stuff on hitters, how to attack them and how to get them out. And you're the AAA, and you kind of got a piece of paper that says, "Hey, this might work." You know what I mean? So
Right.
that was a little hard. I had to put a lot of trust in my catchers. The guys that have been there for a while playing these teams, and say, "Hey, I don't really know much of what I got going on here.
Right.
I got a piece of paper that says possibly throw it here."
Right.
But they do a great job out there in Omaha. The pitching coach and the coaches do they do a great game plan with what they got. It's hard to get all that information in the minor leagues, but yeah, it's just you just get a lot more information here in the big leagues.
Last thing for you, obviously Danny Duffy was traded right before the deadline and had been an enormous part of this franchise for a very long time. What did you learn from him in the time you guys shared together? And then what was it like? What did he say? What did you say to him whenever he was traded to LA?
Yeah, so sadly I didn't really get to say bye to him because I took off right after the game for the rehab assignment. Sure. But I shot him a text, and man, Duff, he was one of my favorite guys. He was just such a genuine, true human being. He spoke his mind. He would always help the rookies, no matter what. He cared so much. Such a good guy to be around. Definitely one of my favorites that I've ever been around. And pitching wise information, he didn't think too much. He just went out there, competed, and did what he did, and he knew what he had. He knew what he, like I said, knew what he had that day to work with. And he went out there and competed like hell. He was a good guy to talk about the changeup too. Obviously an elite changeup. One that he talked about with me. Early in his career, he didn't have. He's like, dude, I didn't have a changeup either. You know what I mean? So he was, I learned how to throw it this way and do it this way, and now it's one of my best pitches. So, yeah, just an awesome, genuine guy. Such a great guy, to have in Kansas City, and he really, taught everybody what it was like to be a Royal.
There it is, Brady Singer. My conversation with him from the weekend. Just jam-packed with interesting stuff there. I really appreciated how much he was willing to talk about there and to dig into. Because just listening to it back right there, I wrote down like 5 different things that I think are worth breaking down a little bit. First of all, the idea of that I think he is with surgical precision nailed that most people watching baseball are watching the outcome of a pitch. It was a ball or a strike, and then it was a good pitch or a bad pitch. The result is what determines what actually matters. When that's true to some extent, right? The result is what you are judged by, but the process is what determines the result. And it's really, really, really hard to watch through a TV camera to try to figure out why a breaking ball didn't break, or why maybe a guy's velocity is not quite where it was his last start, or whatever, or why it's working better today than it was his last time out. I think that sort of thing is really interesting, and noting that the mechanics just to these absolute to these centimeters, it totally changes how your pitch is going to end up actually being delivered. Just the very first thing, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think because as listening to that, like basically the thing that popped in my mind is like I could watch 2 videos of a pitcher throwing the same pitch.
Yep.
And to my eye, it's going to look more than likely it's going to look identical, right? Mm-hmm. But to somebody like Brady Singer and probably other pitchers and pitching coaches, they can see little differences, right? Like they can see why in the first video the pitch worked, we did exactly what we wanted, versus why it did it in the second pitch. Like that smallest change in your release, like in your motion, just the littlest thing, and it can just mess up. It can mess up everything. And I think that's and also. Because he hasn't talked about, or he hadn't really mentioned this yet. The fact that he acknowledges like that he wants a third pitch.
Yes.
Like, still plenty of issues with with the way Brady Singer has handled the third pitch. We've talked about it plenty, but this is the first time at least that I can remember him at the very least acknowledging, hey, yeah, I do want a third pitch.
And also,
I'm not there yet.
Also acknowledging how it's going to change his career.
Yes.
To say specifically, I know what it's going to do for my career.
Yes.
Is great to hear, because that's one of those things you wonder if you don't know with an athlete. Hey, do you realize that if you do this thing differently, if you're able to change this part of your game, do you realize what that impact will be? And Brady Singer does.
And I think some of the problem has been because
it's just hard.
Yeah, because and I totally understand also the fact that I imagine trying to learn a new pitch during the season is even harder, right? Because you're also trying to have your own success. But the problem has been the way he's handled it, answering, right, where it's for the most part, at the very least, so kudos, Josh, until your interview.
Thank you.
He's basically just brushed it off like, no, I'm not.
Really
I don't need to work on a third pitch. I don't need a third pitch. A third pitch provides me no value. Whereas at least in this, there's the acknowledgement, like, no, like I want this third pitch. This third pitch is very important for me. I'm just not there yet. And I can imagine why that's very hard to work on it during the middle of the season. I remember
also why you would be able to it would be easy to be frustrated. It's more like it's easier to be frustrated if you know it's something you want to have and you've been working on, but it's just not there for you yet. I understand why he might come off as defensive in other clips or whatever, because it's got to be a frustrating thing to not be able to put that to throw a changeup that moves the way you want it to. It's difficult.
And I remember, and again, like this is why I think another reason why it can be so hard to do it now. But like, I remember back in 2009, I want to say maybe it was 2008 or 2009, it was the year Greinke won the Cy Young. I remember Greinke's career had been very much up and down until that point. Like he had success, he had struggles. He'd obviously walked away from the game. I remember that year he got killed in spring training. Everybody was hitting him. The numbers were terrible. And basically what he said was, I'm throwing a ton of changeups. It's a pitch I don't really have, but I've been working on my change. And he was throwing just an insane amount of changeups because he was trying to develop that pitch.
Yep.
He developed that pitch, and now Zach Greinke is Zach Greinke, right? Like that's part of it. And I can understand.
I hope we have that conversation with Brady Singers.
And I can understand Brady Singers not wanting to do it right now.
Yeah.
Again, I think the issue has been how it's not even so much the lack of a third pitch right now. Plenty of young pitchers don't have a third pitch right now.
Yep.
But plenty of young pitchers do acknowledge, and he has failed. I think he has failed to properly explain.
Sure, where his head's at on it.
Where his head's at that. Where like it has come.
Just needed an elite interviewer really to crack
really
that out of him.
It is because it's so frequently come off as like, no, I don't even need a third pitch.
Yeah.
To heck with the third pitch. I'm not really working on it. It doesn't matter.
And
there's at least that acknowledgement.
The element, because the clip from a couple starts ago of like, I'm not going to use a third pitch if my first two pitches aren't working. Again, I think comes off poorly, but explained in a little more time with a little more context. If I can't get my good stuff to work, I'm going to have a really hard time making my third best pitch actually follow me as I want it to move. And the other thing there, and this I'm going to play that clip for David Lesky here in a little while. We'll talk to him more about the changeup and all of that because I just thought it was super interesting. Yeah. But for him to admit, like, what was nice being in Omaha whenever it wasn't as competitive, and also that he felt good using the changeup in Omaha, like that he was comfortable and it seemed like he liked what it was doing. I think we talked a little bit around that time of like, if Brady Singer got a few starts in Omaha to just say, hey man, you can get shelled here. Get shelled throwing nothing but changeups.
It just doesn't really matter.
And just see what you can make happen with it. Would have been perfectly fine, but he was right back up again just as soon as he was healthy. So
I do hope we
it's
see
interesting.
Next spring training, especially because I can also understand like his first year or two in spring training. Again, you're trying to pitch well because you are fighting for a job, right?
You want to prove that you want to make sure your good stuff is still good against major league hitters.
I think he did have like his roster. His spot in the rotation was secured, but especially heading into year one, he was fighting for a rotation spot right then and there.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. So I do hope we do see in this upcoming spring training. And it doesn't, right, like Lesky's talking about, it doesn't necessarily have to be a changeup. That seems to be the most logical option. But just a third pitch and just to see him really focus on it and really throw a lot of those pitches in that moment, because that's the best time to work on it. In game action and games that don't matter.
I left that conversation with Brady Singer being much more optimistic.
Yeah.
And look, also, I mean, he even notes that he doesn't really like the science of it as much, and he doesn't want to. If you're up there and you're deeply into your own head. I mean, we played my conversation with Derrick Nnadi earlier. Like he's in his own head up in the snaps and after the snap, but during it he's playing, right? Like there is a balance to strike there that is definitely difficult. But I think that, if you look at Danny Duffy as being a guy who wasn't too deep in his own head at the mound, at least in terms of all of the information you get during the week or whatever. My hunch is that the elite of the elite are at a place where they are absorbing so much information. Some of it is analytical, some of it is the film, some of it's the scouting, right? But you absorb that preparing for your start, and then once you're out there, you're able to have it be stuff that you just know intrinsically. I think that's probably, I don't know this, and this is maybe a conversation for a veteran that I can have sometime in the future, but I think that that's something that you work out over the course of your career. So I think maybe the biggest sort of thing that made me optimistic about Brady Singer is him acknowledging that, because here's the thing, he's a good pitcher right now.
Absolutely.
He's a good pitcher at a major league level.
Getting to the big leagues is incredibly difficult. Like, to do that and to stick in the big leagues, you have to have talent. He's got talent.
But he also acknowledges he's not a finished product yet. And I thought that was awesome to hear. So appreciated his time very, very much, and his willingness to break down all that's been such an interesting conversation point to this through this point in the season. We will take a break. Whenever we come back, we'll switch to the offensive side. I mean, they also play defense, Hunter Dozier and Nicky Lopez. We'll start with Hunter Dozier whenever we come back. You're going to learn something about the sport he almost played, his favorite sports movie, and about what he went through over the course of this up and down season for him. Hunter Dozier's up next.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
The Royals have a chance today to have the worst offensive stretch in the history of a game that's been played since Jesus was here.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll move from the pitchers to the hitters here as we continue playing back some of the conversations that I've been hoping to bring you. Couldn't wait to bring you from the weekend. Not with the weekend, but I record them on the weekend.
It's not the weekend.
It's not yet the weekend, nor is it featuring The Weeknd, the singer, nor is it. No, it's conversations I had. These are from Saturday out at the giant autograph signing memorabilia show and everything. The only thing that I bought while I was out there, the last day I was going in to get the last load of equipment on Sunday, and I walked by a stand that I'd walked by multiple times, and there was a big, think about it like the size of like a political campaign button from like the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
And there were some like Royals World Series ones that were pretty cool, but one of them was there that first time I walked by, and it caught my eye. I passed it multiple times. I kept thinking maybe. It was $4. It's a big orange button, and it just says in sort of cowboyish font, clearly, definitely, I think late 80s, early 90s, it just says "Beat the Broncos." And I bought that.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
That's a pretty good purchase. For $4, that's a good purchase.
That was really what it was, because I have a good amount of
You're almost never going to regret a $4 purchase.
I think that's a pretty good, unless that was you not spending enough money on something. If you spend $4 on something that you should have spent $8 on, and then it breaks, or that. But if you
spent $4 on like something that just got you physically ill, like
I guess that's true.
You bought $4 sushi out the back of somebody's, car,
in the middle of their car in Nebraska.
You might feel sick.
Yeah, fair enough.
But like 99% of the time, you are not going to regret a $4 purchase.
Yeah, and so I do feel pretty good about that. It was a fun time out there, and it obviously gave us a chance to sit down with a whole bunch of different players from both the Chiefs and the Royals, and Jordan Nelson as well.
The interviews have all been really well.
Well,
again,
thank you, Rudy.
Here's the thing.
Hold on one second. Honk, honk. That's me tooting my own horn. Thank you. Honk, honk.
Everybody's listening knows that I do not like to give Josh credit.
That's true.
I go out of my way. I will deliberately lie on this show to try to make Josh feel bad.
Yeah.
So when I'm willing to say, hey, the interviews have been good, they've been good.
Thank you, Rudy. I think you're going to enjoy these next two as well, because there are some very specific things.
Except for that Lesky guy. I'm not looking forward to that.
Well, no, he's a scrub. But both Hunter Dozier and Nicky Lopez, I think, are going to also be crowd pleasers, at least for me, Rudy, and Beards. Beards, I want you to know that I don't know who your favorite current member of the Kansas City Royals is. I don't know if that's I don't know who mine would be. I think it's maybe it's something that we're not supposed to have because we're hashtag journalists.
Mine to see.
But I think for Beards, Hunter Dozier is going to make a real case for the top of Beards' personal power rankings for reasons that you'll hear in my conversation with Royals third baseman, right fielder, home run hitter now once again, and a guy who's going to be here for quite a while on this roster, Hunter Dozier.
What was the strangest thing that someone asked you to sign out there? Did anything jump out?
No, actually, there was nothing really strange. Just the normal pictures, cards, bobbleheads. Yeah, nothing too strange today.
Has there been something strange in the past? You'd be like, oh, this is weird. Did anybody try to get you to sign the sandwich or anything?
No,
weird at all?
No food.
That's good.
I think a bowling ball.
Bowling ball?
Yeah, which was kind of unique.
Do you have any connection to bowling that I don't know about? Okay, so someone just had a bowling ball. You know what would be great? Hunter Dozier could sign. All right. I mean, I guess if it works. I want to talk to you about some things over the course of the season so far and what you guys have left and everything. And also, I mean, if there is any bowling stories that you think of, I guess I'll take them. That'd be an exclusive probably. But over the course of this year, you obviously were dealing with some injuries and a tough start. And then recently, I mean, you've been on, can I call it a tear? You've been on a good stretch at the very least, however you'd want to define it. What was that process like for you, kind of going through the injuries and the tough start and being able to turn your season around?
Yeah, I mean, the season hasn't, gone exactly how I wanted it to go. Struggles at the beginning for sure. That's just part of baseball. I mean, you learn how to get through those. Before the All-Star break, I started feeling better, kind of getting back to my swing and stuff, and been feeling pretty good lately.
I've talked to a couple of the pitchers here today, and I'm always willing to admit that I feel like there's so much that I and a lot of us in the media don't really understand about some of the mechanical things that you're going through and how much something like a medium-sized, I guess, hand injury, can totally throw off your mechanics and can change your swing. Can you walk me through any of that process, what that was like for you?
Yeah, when I blew up my hand the opening day, it kind of got me in a bad spot because I didn't handle it great. I tried to play through it, and I kind of created some bad habits trying to protect it, and which kind of got me into a pretty big hole. And then I kind of started to, not panic, but like start trying to change stuff when I really shouldn't, and just understand that, I was going to work through it. I was going to get back to doing what I've done the past couple of years. But it was a learning experience looking back at it. And, it's just one of those things that you learn from.
On the other side, I mean, you've obviously spent a lot of time at third and a lot of time in the outfield. What is that, day to day, maybe not knowing where you're going to play, or maybe you do know for a stretch of time, but it's obviously got to be different mentally and physically. How is that? How does that impact you on a daily basis?
I'm pretty used to it now. Ever since I've really gotten called up to the big leagues in 16, I've kind of played different positions, went back and forth. So at this point, like I'm used to it, and it's not that big of a deal right now.
Do you enjoy one more? Like, I'm not going to tell Matheny that you said this. Like, we can keep this to ourselves. But do you go like, all right, third, or all right, right field? Do you have a preference?
Honestly, I think whatever I'm playing most at that time. Like when I'm playing third every day, it's like, okay, I'm getting a good feel at third.
Yeah.
I'm feeling comfortable over there. But then when they move me to the outfield, and I start getting used to the outfield, it's like, okay, I enjoy outfield. So I wouldn't say one. It's kind of just whichever one I'm playing the most at the time.
Still feels like you might have thought that I was going to try to tell Matheny that you preferred. But you know what? It's a diplomatic answer that I also believe to be true. Another thing, maybe the biggest thing in baseball, I think it ended up being the most watched regular season baseball game in a very long time, the Field of Dreams game a couple days back. I don't know if you had a chance to catch much of that. And obviously, the Royals, you guys played in Omaha in, I think it was 2019. And it looks like baseball is kind of experimenting with playing in some different locations. How do you feel about that? Maybe spending, instead of an extra stretch at Kauffman, maybe getting to travel around and play in some different places that don't have major league teams?
I think it's a great idea. I know when we played in Omaha, it was a great turnout. We had a lot of fun with it. The Field of Dreams game looked incredible. MLB did a great job setting up that. I think those games are fun. Fans love them. Players love them. So I would love to see more of them.
Is there a place that you would like to go anywhere, any baseball field in America, or I guess internationally also?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that. The Field of Dreams is always number one.
It's really good.
Yeah.
The cornfield, the aesthetic they built up and everything. Yeah. Kevin Costner's 5-minute long entrance at the beginning. It set a good vibe. Do you have a favorite baseball movie? Is it Field of Dreams? Is there something else? Do you not? If you told me that you don't like baseball movies, I would be surprised, but also kind of thrilled to break that.
I was more of a Mighty Ducks.
See, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. I like The Sandlot, but I don't love it, which is, I get some hate for it. I was just a big Mighty Ducks guy. I played hockey. I played ice hockey. Me and my friends, we played more roller hockey in the streets than baseball.
Really?
Yeah. So it was just we kind of gravitated towards that. A huge Stars fan. But yeah.
When did you find out? When did you realize I can keep playing baseball, but I cannot be a professional hockey player?
I had to make the choice. I was on a pretty good select hockey team, ice hockey team, and we would travel to Vancouver, play tournaments. But it was in middle school when my parents kind of sat me and my buddy down and said, okay, either you guys get to play baseball, basketball, and football, or you focus just on ice hockey, because they're all year round,
right?
Baseball and hockey. So we decided to choose the 3-over-1. But yeah.
Do you think that if you would have gone hockey permanently, how far do you think you would have gotten? You got a pretty good feel for what it takes to be a professional athlete in general.
I would like to say I would have a pretty good chance, but I would have had to move up north or do something.
Yeah.
Get more exposure, but those guys are so incredibly good, and
it's insane.
Yeah.
Hockey is a ridiculous sport.
Yeah.
It is football on ice with swords on your feet. It's I can't even skate, so it looks like aliens playing a sport to me. But that's fascinating. I did not know that you had what is the hockey highlight that you think back on that you did pull off, and then I'll let you go.
We when we went to Vancouver for the tournament, we went up there and people are asking us where we're from. I'm like, we're Texas. And they're like, Texas?
Right.
You guys have ice hockey in Texas? What do you guys skate on? Frozen mud? I'm like, no, we have rinks and stuff. And we ended up winning the tournament.
Wow.
And all the other teams' parents were pissed, saying that we were cheating or somehow. I don't know how, but I remember my dad telling me, because they're like, no way this Texas team can come and beat us Canadians. But we had a good team, and
It was a lot of fun.
That's pretty good. All right. Well, I mean, professional baseball player, sure, but really a hockey prodigy, Hunter Dozier. Thank you for spending some time with us here today. Good luck the rest of the season, and thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate it.
It is a 32-hour drive from Texas to Vancouver. It's a 6 or 7 hour flight, and that was a trip that Hunter Dozier was making there. Excuse me. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I ended up finding out that there was a brief snippet in a Vahe Gregorian piece about Hunter Dozier from a couple years back that mentioned him playing hockey, but I didn't see that piece at the time, I guess, and I had no idea that there is an alternate universe not that far away where Hunter Dozier moves to Vancouver or something, moves from Texas to Canada. And as we touched on this earlier, you get a hockey player named Dozier. That feels also Hunter Dozier. I mean,
it's a good hockey.
It's a great
good
hockey
American
name.
hockey name. Yeah.
First of all,
that man, he's got the size.
And he does.
Like he could probably, if you gave him a year to train for the NHL, like he might make a roster.
Certainly, if he would have done it from the jump there.
Yeah.
But there you go. Also, Beard's professional athlete in Kansas City. Personally, I asked him about a baseball movie, and he went to Mighty Ducks. How happy did that make you?
I mean, Mighty Ducks is great. Mighty Ducks movies are great.
How's the TV show going?
It was pretty decent. I mean, it finished several months ago. Season 1 did at least, but I did a shot clock review on it. I think I gave it like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I couldn't remember at the time. I feel like it was only a couple of episodes in, so I just didn't know if it.
I remember none of that at all.
It nosedived or whatever.
I'm not taking issue with what Dozier said there.
No.
I just thought that you would be very excited to hear, one of the long-term pieces on this Royals roster to say to almost entirely sports that Mighty Ducks is his favorite baseball movie. Or at least it's his favorite sports movie, because no baseball movie can even touch Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
I just thought you'd be excited to be able to flock together with him on that or whatever.
Fly together.
Yeah, but birds of a feather.
Ducks fly together.
Fly together. Yeah, that's right. You can correct me on
Mighty
that,
Ducks
but you
isn't
couldn't.
about gooses?
Yeah, then there's the sequel, Mighty Ducks, and then there's the threequel, which is Mighty Ducks, Goose. That's when the goose. You're thinking of Mighty Ducks, Goose, which is the third one.
That was a
dumb
joke.
It went straight to VHS. You must have had that as a child, Rudy. You watched Mighty Ducks, Goose a lot.
I didn't want, if it was, I knew as a kid, if it's going straight to VHS, it's not worth it.
It's good stuff.
Excuse me?
Oh, no.
Did you not see the third Aladdin movie? That's like amazing, and it was direct to VHS.
I did.
I don't think that I did.
It's a really good one. It's really good. It's got his dad in it.
Yeah. I always trust Beards'
It
opinion
actually
of
has
movies.
Robin Williams, unlike the second one, where Robin Williams got mad at them for the first one, and he didn't appear in the second one.
You said it has Aladdin's father in it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here it is. It's called Nnadi.
Oh, I saw this one. Yeah.
I hate you.
Okay, yeah. I remember this one. Actually, yeah, Beard. I did not know this was a direct to VHS.
Yeah.
It was good. Yep.
It's a good movie.
Absolutely.
Was Lion King 1.5 straight to DVD?
I don't know. I know the second one was.
Well, straight to DVDs are great. Straight to VHS, that's where you get dicey.
Lion King 2 wasn't straight to DVD.
I think it
way.
was.
No way.
Lion King 2, Simba's Pride? I think it was.
Was it? Maybe it was. I don't remember Lion King 2 very well.
I think a lot of those Disney Renaissance movies, a lot of the sequels were directed VHS or DVD.
I remember Lion King 1.5 extremely well.
I never saw that one.
I had it on DVD, and I watched it a ton.
Lion King's 2, Simba's Pride, 1998 American animated direct-to-video romantic musical drama film.
Interesting. Lion King 1.5 was apparently out in 2000, came out in 2004. Also, it had bonus features. It had a whole second disc, I think, that had like a game I vaguely remember with like a mine cart or something. I mean, it is a half-remembered dream situation, but there you go. Lion King 1.5, full recommendation. Let's take a break. Whenever we come back, we'll move from third base over to shortstop, second base. He could really play wherever, and he's also been on an absolute heater this year. Plus, today, his first home run of the season. We'll talk to Nicky Lopez next.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
I wonder if we could set up an elaborate role play scenario where we would just call in and give your best post-game question, and then I would be Ned Yost and try to answer them as well as I could.
With Joshua Brisco.
Talk about Sawyer's performance there in the third.
Don't ask me to talk about question. I'm bleeping Ned Yost.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I think one of the most fun and interesting stories of this 2021 Royals season is, it's everything about the year that Nicky Lopez has had to this point. He was going to start the year in Omaha.
He was optioned down.
He was. That's true. He actually was optioned.
Yeah.
And then Adalberto Mondesi is injured. Nicky Lopez ends up on the Major League roster, and he never let that spot go. I'll let you explain how this season has gone in his own words, plus what he does in his free time, and a whole lot more. Here's my conversation with Royals do-it-all infielder Nicky Lopez.
Nicky, you just got back in from signing for a whole bunch of fans. Did anybody bring anything weird for you to sign? Any strange items for you today?
No, it was all pretty, balls and bats and pictures. I had actually a really cool, it was like an oil pastel picture of me too. So
nice.
That was really cool. And then actually someone gave me an actual ticket of my debut. So that
Very
was
cool.
That was also cool. But as far as abstract, out of the ordinary, things, they were all pretty cool.
Do you have anything from your entirety of signing things? Hunter Dozier said he signed a bowling ball once, despite having no real association with bowling.
I signed a shoe once, I don't know if it was his shoe
Just
that
a
he was
normal
currently wearing, or if it was. But I did sign a shoe. Obviously, like phone cases and stuff like that. But I think the shoe takes the cake.
Okay, and so far today, I think bowling ball is probably the highest
Definitely.
ranking one. That's probably for the best. Well, look, man, I mean, first of all, congratulations on the season that you've had so far. Obviously, from a team perspective, you guys aren't where you fully want to be. But, I mean, you didn't – I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think you really knew even where you were going to start this season. And then ultimately, series of events, and you're playing every day and playing really, really well.
Yeah. It's been I always say it's been a roller coaster of a season, and that's what baseball is. It literally is a roller coaster of a season. But yeah, I got the news that I was going to go down to AAA to start, and then 4 days, or actually a day and a half before the season started, they're saying, "Hey, we need you back in Kansas City." And whenever there's an opportunity that presents itself, you just kind of have to take advantage of it and run with it. And obviously, there's unfortunate circumstances with Mondesi getting hurt, and you never want to obviously get called up due to an injury. But you just kind of have to, take the opportunity and kind of try to do the best with it. And I'm very happy with the season so far, and I'm just looking to finish strong.
Well, I mean, what is that like whenever you really kind of are on that bubble, and again, like to a point now where you're not anymore, right? Like that's a pretty hard thing to do, especially as a young guy, and especially in the course of, half of a season or whatever, where you're cemented. I mean, now you're hitting up in the lineup as well. Like that's a pretty big jump. What was that like mentally in those early days of figuring out where you're going to land to where you're at now? Again, hitting in the top of the order.
Well, it was tough because, I got sent down due to obviously, I wasn't doing what I did to get up there on the offensive end. Defense has always been there. I take a lot of pride in my defense. But I got sent down in those 4 days before getting called back up. Yeah. I had to figure it out, and I had to change my mindset and not really feel sorry for myself. And I think I always say it was a blessing in disguise getting sent down. Sometimes your biggest failures lead to your best successes, and I really do believe that. And obviously, I got a lot more work to do. I can always keep getting better. Still young, which is good. But I'm happy to be able to contribute each and every day, and whatever that may be.
What did you do, or was there anything specifically? Was it a combination of things that did help you try to recalibrate what you needed to do offensively and how to get where you are now?
I think it was more of, just kind of taking a step back and just, breathing a little bit and just kind of, reorganizing my mindset and just kind of prioritize, hey, baseball is baseball. Baseball is going to be a difficult sport, but kind of looking at it as, hey, this is going to be a blessing. Get back to the basics, kind of look at video of what I did to get me to the big leagues and not change who I am. In 2020, I try to be someone I wasn't, and it kind of sounds cliche, but it's just trying to be Nicky Lopez, and that's what I've been trying to do this year.
It's also a great baseball name, so being Nicky Lopez is pretty. That's got some flair to it.
Appreciate that.
That's pretty good. What do you do whenever you're trying to not think about baseball? Because baseball is a grind to watch.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
to follow 162 games. What do you do in the off days? What do you do in the mornings when you're not at the park yet? Like what is not baseball Nicky Lopez doing?
Yeah, playing 162 on top of starting late January, early February as well. So we're playing like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months out of the year. But when I'm not playing baseball, I like to clear my head playing video games.
Okay, give me a few. That was the answer I was hoping for.
Warzone is my game.
Have the Pioneers reached out at all yet? They've got a couple Chiefs players. I do Warzone.
I think I've gotten a couple messages from them. I'm looking to reach back out to them. Okay. But yeah, Warzone for sure. Apex, and then I was a big Fortnite player until Warzone came out, and then some sports games too. But
you can't leave any of those games for too long. If you leave I didn't get into Fortnite until after it had grown like a little bit, like in that first phase. And at that point, like I was getting teabagged by 11-year-olds. And it's like, well, at this point, man, I'm gonna go back to Animal Crossing.
Absolutely.
Nobody kills me in Animal Crossing. I'm safe there.
Absolutely.
What are you looking to accomplish the rest of the season? You said finish strong. What does that look like for you?
Just keep getting better on the offensive end, and keep getting better on the defensive end. Just attacking my work each and every day. Just trying to get better. I know baseball is a grind. Obviously, we're in the the heart of the summer in August, and they call it the dog days or whatever. But just trying to get my work in. I know that there's a lot of room for improvement. I had a couple good months. Obviously, baseball is a roller coaster, so you're going to go through ups and downs, and just keeping that mindset of, hey, I belong here, and I think I can help this team win when we are going to put together some winning seasons. And I've said it before, the future is definitely bright here in Kansas City. We got some guys that are going to help us. We got some young guys that are performing this year, and we just got to put it together.
All right, last question. Walk me through the play a couple nights ago where you're there to field it. You talked about your defense is excellent. He takes a bad hop, and then I thought you were dead. You go down like, well, this looks terrible. And then you fielded the next ground ball after that, which is one of the 5 most impressive things I think I've seen in baseball this year. Walk me through that play and what happened and what you were feeling there, because it looked terrible, and then you fielded the next ground ball.
So the field was pretty beat up right in that path that when you're leading off of second base, that base path was pretty beat up. So that ball was hit pretty firm. I think it was 100 something miles per hour off the bat, and I was ready to field it. Then it took a bad hop right into my jaw, and that's when I got really dizzy, laying down, looking up at the sky, and it's spinning and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, well, I want to stay in this game.
Right.
I don't want to come out. Talked them into me staying in the game, and that, of course, the next ball is hit to me. So I'm like, all right, let's try to make this play. I did, and then obviously when I got to into the dugout, that's when my mind and my brain and everything was just like, all right, I'm very dizzy. I gotta chill out. I gotta chill out, and so it was not ideal.
No,
not ideal at all.
Not ideal, but you made the next play and it looked good, and then you came back around, and now everything seems like it's fine. Your jaw's in one place.
My jaw's in one place.
Where it's supposed to be, I think.
A little mark, but that's about it.
Nicky, thank you for making some time for us here today. Good luck the rest of the season. Congratulations on everything you've done so far, and good luck in Call of Duty.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This is Nicky Lopez, who has just really done such a good job this year. You heard him say there, he tried to be somebody else in 2020, and it didn't work. And he came back, and he's played his game at a really high level, and he hit his first home run of the season tonight. You don't typically want to hit your first home run late in August, but if you're doing what you do well, there's huge value to that.
If he can become essentially an elite Gold Glove caliber second baseman, and get on base at a 350 clip, there's a ton of value in that.
Absolutely.
Like that's what the Royals ultimately need to be. Bobby Witter, Mondesi take over short, he moves second, and you got a great second baseman.
You get power from those guys.
Yeah.
You get power from other places in your lineup.
Yep.
Nicky Lopez, with the defense that he plays and with the bat we've seen from him this year, is a wonderful 9-hitter.
Yeah.
And we talked about this some in the
so
Around the
much
World
value in
Series
that.
run, like the idea of having a second kind of leadoff hitter at the bottom of the lineup, that kind of thing. And I also can't imagine just him not having fun playing the game and just being a good dude to have as a part of your roster altogether. I'm really happy for him this season that he's put together this year after kind of recalibrating from last season. We will talk plenty about Nicky Lopez, plenty about Brady Singer, and a lot of Royals with David Lesky of Inside the Crown next.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm Mark Robbins. We got Major League Baseball going on, and the A's and the White Sox ended up a 4-game series in Chicago. The A's looking to get out of town, not on the L, but with a W.
The 0-1. Breaking ball again, and that is hammered deep down the line and right. Stay fair and get out. And it does. Matt Olson unloads on a hanging breaking ball. Number 31 with Elvis Andrews Sabor. And just like that, smiles in the dugout. It's a 5-3 Oakland lead.
And the A's go on to get the victory 5-4 the fun on the A's cast. On the scoreboard, Tampa Bay 7-2 over Baltimore. The Orioles have lost 15 in a row. Houston beats Kansas City 6-3 in 10. A temporary restraining order against Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer has been dissolved after an LA County Superior Court judge ruled against a woman's request for a permanent order. Pasadena, California police are still conducting an investigation. Bauer's administrative leave from the Dodgers has been extended another week. One preseason game in the NFL in the fourth quarter. The Patriots having fun at the Eagles' expense. 35-0. The Pats lead it in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, a last-minute scratch, went through pregame warm-ups and then scratched with a non-COVID-19 illness. And a tough injury for the Jets. Defensive end Carl Lawson suffering a ruptured Achilles, out for the season. It occurred during a joint practice with the Packers.
A Football Friday on the way with me, Greeny, and Darryl Moose Johnston breaking down what we saw in the quarterback battle in New England Thursday night and a whole lot more. Don't miss it. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN+.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Spanish porn star Nacho Vidal, who likes to advertise his aromatic candles shaped like male genitalia on Twitter, has been arrested on manslaughter charges following a man's death during a mystic ritual in which he inhaled psychedelic toad venom. I'm just going to ask you, Lesky, which one of those candles you thought had the most pleasant scent?
With Joshua Brisco.
Honestly, I would like to talk about that instead of anything baseball related.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
It's always nice to be able to break a bad streak. And the Royals did that for a little bit. Obviously, today they lost. And maybe we'll talk about today's game. Maybe we won't. But most importantly, we're about to talk to David Lesky of Inside the Crown. You can read his work there at insidethecrown.substack.com, at DBLesky on Twitter. More important than anything else we could possibly talk about today here, Lesky, we are talking one day after a really good Brady Singers start. Curses aren't real, and we have made it.
Well, have we? Because if we had made it, wouldn't we have talked last night?
I guess. I mean, it's
less than 24 hours since the game ended, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
it was a quick game, but it wasn't that quick. Okay, yeah.
If here's the other thing is if there was a game tonight instead of there being a day game, or if they were off today simply, it would be talking the day after Brady Singers start. Having the day game in there, I think, is the only thing that sort of threatens the streak. But I think it's just so close to having been right after a start. If this was 3 days ago, maybe not. But today, I think we should get to enjoy it.
That's fair. Okay.
And so we could talk about Brady Singer in a second. I want to talk about Daniel Lynch again with you. But more importantly than anything else, I need you to say some of the things that you were explaining to me earlier before we started this segment about, you were trying to get your dog to come inside.
Yeah.
And you said that something along the lines of, I'm going to grab the turkey bacon and try to get this dog to come in. And go ahead and describe what you were using to bring to lure your dog indoors.
Well, I first of all, I would love to get a sponsorship out of this.
Yes.
So, Rachel Ray, if you're listening, give me a call.
Okay, now I'm going to call a timeout right now.
Yeah.
Because here's the information the listener has, which is also about the information that I got at the time. You say turkey bacon, Rachel Ray. And
I'm building intrigue, okay?
No, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure that I wanted to sort of clarify, that's the information that people have right now. And in my head, you have just made some, breakfast for dinner sort of stuff, and you had some, bacon left over.
Turkey bacon left over, yeah.
Right.
So, Rachel Ray, 30-minute meals, all that stuff, she has apparently dipped her toe, or her paw, as one might say, into the dog treat industry. Maybe cat treats too. I don't have cats, so I don't know. But she has, I say she as if she's like, all she does is slap. All they do is slap her name on it probably, but whatever, it's fine. They're hers. She has a series of dog treats. There's turkey bacon, which I have to say, any dog owner, if you're having trouble getting your dog to do something, buy the turkey bacon, offer it to them. They will do whatever you ask. My 2 dogs wash my car. I mean, they do a terrible job, but they do it because they get a piece of turkey bacon afterward. But,
hey, could you vacuum real quick? Woof! All right, yeah. Of course, the turkey bacon. Woof!
Exactly. And our house is immaculate now because of turkey bacon. But yeah, there's turkey bacon. There's meatloaf. There's hamburgers. We have hamburgers as a bedtime treat. And I mean, they're like the size of a quarter, maybe a little bigger, but they're not. They're small. There are a lot of other treats too, a lot of other flavors, and we happened to. Somebody gave us a bag of the turkey bacon. Found out it's like doggy crack, and like once a month-ish, we buy a new bag. It's $10, and it's the best $10 you'll spend because you don't have to yell at your dogs to come in. You just say, "Hey, you want turkey bacon?" And their ears perk up and they sprint.
So, I just have so many questions.
Sure.
And one of them is this good for Rachel Ray's brand? Because for you, the dog owner, or really, dog companion, you are thinking more highly of Rachel Ray and thinking of Rachel Ray more often because she is associated with this dog treat that has totally changed your life as a dog person. But also, if then on the next aisle, I see Rachel Ray, turkey bacon for dudes, and I see that and I go, you know what? I don't know that I'm willing. I'm thinking of Rachel Ray as a dog food manufacturer, and I'm not sure if that's good for her sort of Food Network brand.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. The reality, I don't know if she has restaurants or not. If she does, I probably wouldn't eat there. I'd assume they'd be served in like a dish.
Right.
I assume you get like a dry or a wet option.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So I probably wouldn't eat there. No, but I don't know. She's wonderful to me now, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
The good news for me is I don't care about her brand.
True.
She is irrelevant to me entirely. So that's
until now
coming out. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. I highly recommend Rachel Ray dog treats. And again, Rachel, if you're listening, call me. We'll set something up. I'll put you on Inside the Crown.
Here's my last question. I'm looking at these on Walmart's website, and the actual package has pictures of real turkey bacon. There is a beef one, a chicken one, a meatball, a sausage. These are all foods that I like, but and again, the packaging has like the real food on it, and then the treat looks like there appear to be grill marks on the hamburger one.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. Here's the thing about the turkey bacon ones. I'm looking at the back of the bag. I'm seeing first ingredient, real turkey. Second ingredient, dried potatoes. Third ingredient, vegetable glycerin. Then sugar, salt, powdered cellulose, potato protein, and you get some some ingredients you don't know the words of, you don't know what they mean necessarily. But these are all things that generally I do like. Mm-hmm. Have you eaten one of the turkey bacon dog treats?
I haven't, but next time I'm in studio, I would like to propose a toast, and I think we should break bread. Well, as it were, break turkey bacon together.
Yeah.
While we talk about the Royals in studio.
I mean, I think I can only accept that offer. I think that, I of the group here, Rudy is pretty willing. Beards is absolutely not going to do this, but we can try to bully him. I'm obviously down. I don't want to do this, but I am generally like I will eat pretty much any, even food adjacent thing like once for the sake of a bit. I'm not going to do it out of my own curiosity, but given the opportunity like this one, I would probably be down. So
yeah, I'm not going to sit down and make a plate of Rachel Ray turkey bacon dog treats. But
as of right now, you're not going to.
Well, we might. Who knows? But I think for the good of almost entirely sports,
yeah,
and the Inside the Crown brand as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move for us to eat some dog treats together.
I think you're right. I think that we're gonna have to do that, and
All right, I'm in.
And I think that's okay. Next time you're in studio, are we for sure decided on turkey, or do you want? I feel like they also look thin. The turkey bacon ones, the meatball ones look like dog food in a way that is not appealing.
The meatballs are a little thicker. The hamburgers are patties. See, all we have are turkey bacon and hamburgers in this house. So if we want to go spend $10 on a new bag, we can get anything we want.
No, but I think the sausage ones are like if you cut Slim Jims up into a bunch of little pieces, and the chicken ones don't look very appealing. So I think turkey bacon is going to be the play because they do. Whenever your dog eats them, there's a crunch there, right?
No, there.
Oh,
there's the kicker. They're
gross. Okay, well,
they're gonna get stuck in our teeth.
Okay.
Yeah, but you already said yes. So
I did already say yes. All right. Well. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some Royal stuff. I don't know if there's anything from today's game. We usually don't get to talk right after a day game, and in this case, they went to extras. They blew it. You have a relatively standard Mike Minor experience. Nicky Lopez hits a home run, which is fun. But
he
before
actually hit a great game in general.
He did.
He is the main topic of tomorrow's newsletter.
Good.
Just a FYI.
Well, let me shoot you the podcast of today's show as well, and you can just quote from the 8 minutes of glory that I had in my conversation with Nicky Lopez this weekend. You want to hear my conspiracy really quick before we get into what he's been?
Always.
So the four guys that I talked to last weekend were Scott Barlow, Brady Singer, Hunter Dozier, Nicky Lopez.
So you are the Midas touch.
I think I'm the Midas touch. I think that if Chris Bubich would have been there to sit down with me, we would not have any of these disastrous outings maybe ever again. Like I think Brady Singer's changeup is actually 100% ready to go because he talked to me about it. Like I just would like the Royals to hear me say this. Talk to those four guys. Look at their last week. I'm not gonna say it definitively because it's hard to know, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna suggest it very strongly.
I'm gonna say it definitively.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that because I feel like
I'm here to put my neck on the line for you.
I really do appreciate that, and I think that maybe it'll rise up the ranks at Kaufman. Maybe, hey, John Sherman. I don't know if you've got any walk around cash, but
I mean, the Royals and their TV people are clearly listening. They're putting stats up from Inside the Crown. I mean, without the citation, of course. But they're still
I was like, really? Did I miss that? Oh.
Yeah. So it was a couple weeks ago. I talked about how good the Royals were about hitting hard fastballs.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day on the broadcast, they're talking about that for the first time all year. And then yesterday on Inside the Crown, I mentioned, and on Twitter too, that the Royals were 17-12 against teams that are currently in first place. And the first time I heard it anywhere else on the broadcast, if the Royals win today, they can go to 18-12 against teams currently in first place.
I mean, they're reading.
Okay.
They're subscribers. You need to go into your email list and find the mole.
Dayton.moore@gmail.com. You think that's got to be him, right?
That's got to be him. That is so. That is J.Sherman at the special email address provider for people who have more money than God.com.
I believe he's actually at live.com.
He is currently.
Gino.com.
It is JShermMakesMoney at AOL.net.
Perfect.
Let's talk about Nicky Lopez a little bit then. You can make this the teaser for tomorrow's newsletter, again, InsideTheCrown.substack.com. But where are you at with him right now? I mean, I will go ahead and just absolutely hurt my shoulder, pat myself on the back. But like when I got to talk to him last weekend about the fact that he did not know where he was going to start the season. He was going to start the season in Omaha. And now, in the absence of Adalberto Mondesi, he has had a truly excellent season from a variety of levels. How do you feel like you can evaluate Nicky Lopez at this point? We got a pretty good sample size. He's been excellent. What is Nicky Lopez really?
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy who we thought he would be, right? When everybody was clamoring for him to come up in 2019 because Chris Owings was Chris Owings, and Nicky Lopez was I think he had like a 20-5 walk to strikeout ratio, not the other way around. I guess I could say it the right way. A 5-20 strikeout to walk ratio.
Crazy.
I think this is the guy who we thought that the Royals were getting when they called him up a couple years ago, and it took him a little while. You know, part of the problem with Nicky Lopez, we've talked about this a million times, he hasn't hit the ball hard enough or far enough, and so he loses out on bloop singles because guys are playing so far. You know, all this stuff, everything that we've talked about is true, but I think he also was kind of struggling to adapt to big league pitching. Big league pitchers are better than AAA pitchers. It's just the fact of the matter. I don't know if I'm breaking news here or not, but it's true. And he struggled with it. And I think, I can't remember if we've talked about this or not, but I think he went out of order in the way he tried to improve. Because after the 2019 season, which was not good, he tried to put on some muscle to kind of mimic Whit Merrifield a little bit. Not exactly. Didn't do the same workout and everything. But it took. He was eating all those eggs and everything, and tried to drive the ball farther, all that good stuff. And I think what we're seeing now, I didn't really think this at the time, but it makes sense now. I think he did it backwards. I think he should have started going back to his basics of hitting first, and then put on the muscle. So if you ask me what Nicky Lopez should do this offseason, I would do that again. I would do what he did before 2020 this winter. Because now he's got a handle on how to hit. He's got a handle on what he can do offensively. And I think that if he can add a little bit of muscle, and, you know, he's been hitting the ball harder and farther lately. I will say that. But I think now is the time to put on that extra muscle because he's figured out, in some ways, the hitting aspect. Now, I will say, the constant praise of Nicky Lopez has sort of bothered me a little bit because I'm like, what is our bar here? How low is our bar for loving a player when the guy's got like a 97 weighted WRC plus? I don't know if that's what it is, but it's kind of hovered around that upper 90s for a while now. And like, yes, he's been very good defensively, and that's another story too. But I mean, he's a no power guy who gives you a good at bat, and that's great. But it just felt like the praise was over the top. But today's game, I don't think you can heap enough praise on him. And I do think that we're seeing very real improvement in a young player, which, by the way, does happen. Players don't develop linearly. They don't. Some guys do. Some guys consistently get better until they peak, and then they consistently get worse until they retire. But a lot of guys don't do that. A lot of guys, you maybe take a step back in year two, you know, and maybe that's what's happening with Brady Singer a little bit. I think there's some other stuff there, but that's another story. But sometimes guys take a step back in year two, and then a step forward, and then a half step back, and then they finally take off. Maybe Nicky Lopez just wasn't. He kind of was lateral, and now has started developing again and improving. And so, I mean, there's a place for him on any roster. I can't imagine. I mean, maybe the Dodgers are so deep that there's not a place for him on their roster. But I mean, you look around. If you can find me a more than maybe two teams, I guess, that wouldn't say we want a guy who gets on base at a 340, 350 clip, plays really good defense up the middle, great defense at second, very good defense at shortstop, I would say, and you know, can handle the bat the way that he can, and by the way, is now running the bases at an extremely high rate. I mean, all this stuff. If you can find me teams that don't want him, I'm surprised.
Yeah,
because that's a player that is a winning player. Is he a starter? I don't know. I mean, he's probably a guy who you are really happy with until you can find somebody a little bit better. But at the same time, maybe he's developing into that guy who's a little bit better. Maybe he's developing into a player who you can count on, probably at the bottom of the order, really. I mean, he's not really a prototypical number two hitter in 2021 baseball. But, I mean, he's valuable, and he's doing great things. And almost every day he does something to help the team win, which is all you can ask for, I think, for a lot of guys.
Two things from that. One, that I'll throw at you sort of a question, then one I'm going to hazard a guess to your question about where the bar is for praising guys. But one thing with, like, where does he fit? I mean, if your roster is filled with 7 Nicky Lopez's in your lineup, that lineup is clearly not going to be able to do enough in terms of power in baseball in 2021. But if he is your number 9 hitter because there are 8 hitters on your lineup that are more powerful, more consistent, whatever. I mean, whatever your traits need to be to build out that lineup. I feel like he could sit at the bottom of a lineup really, really, and be better than anybody else's 9-hitter for the most part, in that situation. Yeah. But the Royals right now are in a spot where they have a bunch of guys that I feel like you could see being upgraded over, hopefully, sooner rather than later. But also, I would say that there are several guys that I would hope they would upgrade over sooner than they would ever get to Nicky Lopez. So I don't know if I expect them to be trying to find their upgrade there, unless it just ends up being a musical chairs thing with Bobby Witt. If Mondesi's healthy at the same time as Bobby Witt, if they like Hunter Dozier at third, whatever. Like, if that ends up being the reason, I guess maybe. But that feels like a lot of things would have to go right for the Royals / wrong for Nicky.
Yeah, and I mean the Royals they have some of the best up the middle depth when healthy.
Yeah.
So that's the caveat,
right.
Of course, of in baseball, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many teams can say, okay, well, we've got Alberto Mondesi, who we've seen, maybe, I don't know what his steady level is, but his upside is like top 10 player in baseball, right? I mean, he's a guy who can hit the ball as far as he can, run as fast as he can, and play defense as well as he can. Not saying he reaches it, but that's the upside, right, with him. Then you've got Bobby Witt Jr., who also has that same upside. He's the number, depending on where you look, anywhere from number 3 to I think number 6 prospect in all of baseball. That's a pretty good prospect. Then you got Nicky Lopez, who is solid, and you've got Whit Merrifield to play second base, who is solid. And they've got some very, very serious middle infield depth, with crazy upside in the first two we talked about, and yeah, so I think that there's a chance that the Royals are actually one of those teams that Nicky Lopez has some trouble finding the starting lineup, but I also don't know that he has trouble finding 110 games a year. I would not be, people talked quite a bit about Alberto Mondesi taking up center field and seeing if he can do it, and I don't know that Nicky Lopez is quite quick enough. It's not quite fast enough. I think he's got a good enough first step. I don't know that he can play center, but I could see him learning some outfield this winter and becoming kind of a Whit Merrifield clone that he can play left, right, second, short. I think he's played like a few innings at third, but maybe there too. There are opportunities in any lineup if you can play 6 positions or whatever it might end up being. And so I could see that. And then in that situation, you get to a point where you've got enough at bats to find him most days in the lineup. And, you can sit him against a tough lefty. He's hit good fastballs lately, but there was some issues with velocity at some point. So, maybe you go and maybe you're facing DeGrom as a bad example, but whatever. You say, we're not going to play Lopez today. Okay, that's a great opportunity to get him a day off. I think there's a place on just about any team for him, and I would not have said that 5 months ago. Yeah. I thought he's playing his way off the roster. Period.
To hazard my guess at your previous question, I think the answer for where is the bar is just above expectations, wherever the bar is for that, and that obviously changes from player to player, which I think can be bad for analysis but great for fandom. Where you get being the backup catcher, being Cam Gallagher is not a bad gig if you make a couple plays at the plate. If you end up hitting a homer or having a big hit in a big spot or whatever, you're a star for that stretch of time because you're not Salvi. If Salvi had Cam Gallagher's season, it would be a nightmare, right? Like, yeah. I think we do that across the board in a way that, again, I don't think is good for evaluation, because even those of us who try to be objective, it can very easily sort of dilute the analysis that we're trying to give. But if you're a fan, it's fun, because you can't, if you wait for if you will not be excited about a player who's anything less than Shohei Ohtani or Fernando Tatis or whatever, you're going to be miserable forever.
That's true.
And that's how you find your, the guys that maybe saved somebody's Royals fandom in the 2000s, the early 2000s.
Well, and the Royals, you don't have to look very far. The Royals have the perfect example. Whit Merrifield and Nicky Lopez are having very similar seasons.
Yep.
Whit Merrifield is having a disappointing year, and Nicky Lopez is being talked about as a breakout.
Yep.
So that's a great point. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
let's go ahead and talk about expectations and deliveries. I want to let you just unpack what you thought was most interesting about Brady Singers' start, having a really, really excellent one that got him doused by the aforementioned Whit Merrifield in postgame, and almost certainly broke an FCC violation somewhere.
Yeah, they're in trouble. I thought the difference between Singer last night and in previous starts is I just thought the stuff, it moved better. It wasn't looking back at a couple at his last start, which was his first one back, wasn't it? Yeah, it was against the Yankees, and then before he went on the injured list and all that, the stuff kind of just looked flat, and he didn't. It wasn't so noticeable that you're watching it and going, well, where's the movement? But when you see it compared to last night, you go, oh, right, that's the guy who got me excited. And I think back to his very first start last year. It was in Cleveland, second game of the season. Gave up 2 runs over 5 innings, struck out 7. He looked so good, and you're going, yeah, he didn't have a changeup, but look at the sinker moves the way it does, the slider moves the way it does. He didn't need it. And then you see stuff happen where it gets flat, and that's when he needs the third pitch just to have something different to go to. But last night he had it working like he did in that first start, like he did in the no-hit bid, also against Cleveland. Maybe he should pitch against Cleveland all the time. I don't know, maybe. But, he looked like he did against Toronto earlier this year. He looked the way he does in all of his really good starts, where the sinker is cutting like crazy, moving around. The slider dives in on lefty's knees, but it's too late of a break for them to realize it. And everything just worked. And that's where the optimism on Singer comes in, because he only has the 2 pitches, but those 2 pitches, when good, are really, really good, which is why he only needs an average changeup or splitter or whatever the pitch is, and that's partially where the frustration comes in. But everything, the 2 pitches were really working last night, and it made a really good lineup. A little bit hurt, but it's still a good lineup. It made them look bad for most of the night. He ran into a little trouble late, but honestly, he looked as good as I've seen him. The results weren't quite there, but he looked as good as I've seen him.
We've talked so much about the changeup and the extra pitch and the third pitch and everything, and it's one of the things that we talked for a little bit, again, over the weekend at the signing event. And then I asked him about the changeup because he had talked some, and I could hear you in the back of my head, Lesky, during the conversation about him wanting to really just be able to go out there and feel through it and not be thinking too much, not be using too much of the data or going too into the film or whatever. Because that's a tough way, I think, to be able to evolve throughout, baseball in 2021. My hope is that maybe that'll be something that he's more comfortable with as he's more comfortable as a major leaguer. Something that I also, even as, a general lover of analytics, I tried to give some benefit of the doubt and tried to, just not think about that part of it too hard, because I could feel him kind of working through some of it. But I asked specifically about the changeup. I thought his answer here was interesting. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. So here's Brady Singer. As I asked him about the balance of trying to work on the changeup, including on the nights when his other stuff isn't working that well, which is something that he alluded to post-game, 2 starts back, and also earlier in our conversation here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've worked on my whole career, that third pitch, and something that's gonna, I'm gonna get it, and it's gonna help my career tremendously. And I can't wait for that time to come. But right now, the only thing we can do is work on it, throw it in games. Like I said the other day, when the first 2 pitches aren't working, it's very hard to go to your third pitch. Yeah. It's very hard to compete when you don't have your best stuff. And when you're on the competitive side of things, you don't want to throw your third best offering.
Right.
Like I said, when the first 2 don't work.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Especially in such a competitive environment like that. I threw it when I was on the rehab assignment, felt great with it, got a lot of swing and misses, got a lot of ground balls with it. But that was an environment that I felt, 100% comfortable throwing it in, because I knew I had to work on it. You could tone back the competitiveness a little bit and work on stuff in a rehab assignment. But, once you get in the big leagues, it's full competitiveness. So I can't wait for the day for everything to be working. I can come out there and throw that third pitch and have confidence in it. And, I do have a lot of confidence in it. But, like I said the other day, when the first 2 pitches aren't working very well, it's very hard to go to that third pitch.
What do you think?
Well, Alec Lewis in The Athletic wrote something similar, kind of about what he said. And part of me thinks I've been a little bit too critical of him and not critical enough of the Royals. Because he said he's comfortable throwing it on a rehab assignment. He threw 4 2/3 innings. Why did they bring him back?
Yeah.
If they say you have to have this changeup to succeed, and again, I don't think it has to be a changeup. It's fine if it is. It's fine if it's not. He's a third pitch. But if he's feeling comfortable with it, why let him? He has 30 days on a rehab assignment.
Yep.
You don't need to. He didn't have to come back to the big leagues that fast. He wasn't even good in Omaha. Like, give him an opportunity. And this is not the first time they've done that. Hunter Dozier, they had a golden opportunity to put him in Omaha for 2 weeks after he ran into Jose Abreu back in May, and he played 5 games. And then Dozier comes out and he goes, "Yeah, I was working through this thumb thing, and I just couldn't get my swing down." Well, what's happened since he's figured out his swing? He's hitting well.
Yep.
And now you've got Brady Singers saying very similar things. What are you doing with your players? If they need time at Omaha, give them time at Omaha. You're not winning anything in 2022 or 2021. Well, maybe that was a Freudian slip. I don't know. But it feels like the Royals are doing the same thing with Singer and Dozier that they did with Mondesi. They don't with other players, not putting them in the best position to succeed. And yeah, hearing that and then reading what Alec wrote today, maybe yes, I can't remember what days run together. Don't ask me what days is.
I don't know.
Hearing that, it really makes me think. You know what? Maybe I'm too hard on Brady Singer and not hard enough on this Royals front office that doesn't seem to understand what's needed to develop a pitcher. And it's not just them. Think about it. Daniel Lynch came up, clearly wasn't ready. I mean, we saw the results. He goes back to Omaha. He spends 6 weeks, maybe I can't remember how long it was, doesn't matter. He comes back, and now he's really good. Carlos Hernandez went to Omaha. He wasn't ready at the big leagues. He comes back, he's been really good. So you're starting to see a trend here that they have a terrible evaluation process on when guys are ready to come to the big leagues. And you can argue that they brought Singer up last year and he was fine. I would even go as far as to say he had a above average season last year. And maybe they were right on that. But look, he needed some time in Omaha. He's talking about how comfortable he feels throwing that changeup down there. Up there, I guess, if you're looking at the map. And they bring him back after 2 starts, 4 2/3 innings, I think it was. It boggles my mind the way they handle these guys because they are not putting them in the best position to succeed at the big league level. And, I mean, ultimately, whatever, it's going to cost them their job probably. I just don't get it. It's crazy to me.
I was pretty confident that you would pick up on that, but I am also glad you did because it was shocking because it was something that I think you and I talked about this a little bit just texting, if I remember correctly, and none of it's scandalous, so we're safe. But it was just, hey, like this dude is obviously the competitiveness is something that keeps coming up with him. I wonder if they just I think this might have been when they first sent him down even, was like, hey, what if they just let him work on the changeup in a game where it's not so high stakes? And he said that back to me, and I was like, oh, damn, we were right. Like, that is what they should have done. He said he felt great throwing it in Omaha. What was the rush? This season is over. Like, I don't.
But it's even more damning when it's not the first time. Because, again, it's Dozier, it's Lynch, it's Hernandez.
I won't grab this clip, but Hunter Dozier, I was talking about his season and the ups and downs that it's had, and he used the phrase "blew up his hand" was the phrase that he heard, which is the most dramatic way I've heard anybody talk about that injury. And he said, he was trying to work through it, and it messed up other parts of his mechanics, and eventually he got it all figured out. Let him do that in Omaha, or don't make him swing for a little bit.
They had a get-out-of-jail-free ticket with him.
Yes.
Because he went on the injured list.
Yes.
And they had a chance to put him in Omaha for 20 games.
Yeah.
20 days. So it wouldn't be 20, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Sure, 20 days.
And he played 5. I think he had 18 plate appearances. I don't know what the harm would have been, especially because that was right after the 11-game losing streak. Now they bounced back and they got it back to over 500 in early June and all that. But they had what would be the harm there to use that opportunity that they had to give him, I don't know, 60 at bats? What if he comes back all of a sudden? What if he comes back 2 weeks later and his mechanics are fixed and he hits like he did in 2019? Is this season different? Maybe. What if when Singer is struggling, they send him down and say, work on your changeup for 6 starts.
Yep.
And when you come back, is this season different? Maybe. What if they don't bring up Daniel Lynch until he's ready and they, there's all these what ifs. But, I mean, this team, you watch them and sometimes you look at them and you go, oh, they're not that bad. actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah,
they have their moments.
Offensive issues, yeah, but what if these players were actually handled properly?
You mentioned Daniel Lynch as a spot where where he came up and he was not ready. But if I was going to try to play the other side a little bit, they sit him back down and they left him there for a while, let him work things out, and then came back with some time and some patience. They might have actually it seems like they did get it right the second time. They actually did, admit, hey, don't come back in a week, come back in 6 or whatever it ended up being.
Well,
At
and
least,
with Jackson Cohart too, they're working on a slider with him. That's great.
Yeah, that's fine. I can wait until 2022 to see Jackson Cohart. It's fine.
Sure, as long as you're doing it for the betterment of their future,
right?
And not to play Gerard Dyson and Michael A. Taylor. Looking at you, Ed Oliveris. I mean, it's just the way that they've handled this roster, and the Brady Singer thing has kind of pushed me over the edge, because I was already there when I read Alex's article this morning. But hearing that again, it's just like, what are you doing with these players? If they're finding success in development in the minor league level, what do you need them at the big league level for? And the guys who aren't needing the development are sitting down there, while guys in the big leagues shouldn't be getting at bats. And here's the thing. I don't care that Wade Davis pitched the 10th inning today. I really don't care. Part of it is because Mike Matheny used his bullpen to win 3 games and get to the 10th inning of a 4th. And all he had left available were Davis and Urban Santana. Whatever. But you know what? I don't care. If Tyler Zuber can learn to throw strikes in AAA, yes, let Wade Davis have that inning, because this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is if Tyler Zuber can throw a strike in that situation 2 years from now, when they're playing the Astros and they're a game up on the White Sox.
Right.
That's what matters. And they just and so with some guys they're letting it work and some guys are just not, and it's confusing because I don't understand the process behind it. And what's more concerning is I'm not sure that they do either.
Part of me wants to just have the segment be over on that, but I feel like it would be so abrupt that it'd be very confusing. I'll let you be out there, though. Thank you, Lesky, as always. We'll chat again sometime very soon in a form that also probably includes you bringing dog treats to the studio for us to eat.
Yes, sit. Be a good boy.
Oh, I don't like that at all. You can read his work at InsideTheCrowd.substack.com. Follow him on Twitter at DB Lesky. I'm going to go take a shower.
At JB Brisco. At Beards McFly. At Not That Rudy. At Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco. On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks to Lesky as always, despite the fact that this might end up leading to us eating dog treats. We'll see next time Lesky's in studio. But with that in the rear view, we've been able to bring you a bunch of these interviews over the course of the week from the ADA signing I was out at this weekend. And the last one to bring you, we're going to get to all of them. We're going to make it all work in 1 week here. Scott Barlow is actually the very first person that I talked to, but will be the last one that you get to hear this week on Almost Entirely Sports. And man, I really genuinely always enjoy talking to pitchers for a lot of the reasons you've already heard me make very clear. It's something that I just don't think we understand very well because of all the intricacies that go into it. And talking to Scott Barlow about all of those things was really worth my time. It'll be worth yours to listen to it.
Well, how you been doing? How's it feel to be back out here to actually be around some human beings that we can actually see in person, talk to, shake hands with?
Yeah, the human interaction is definitely is very refreshing for sure. Being stuck in the house for however many months was brutal, but yeah, it's definitely nice being around and talking to real people. So
a handful of things that have been kind of interesting right now. One thing that I don't know if you had a chance to watch the Field of Dreams game that happened out in Iowa with the Yankees and White Sox, and it prompted a lot of conversation around the radio station, everything. Royals played in Omaha a couple years back, and being able to play in some different sites, some with some cultural connections, some maybe just for the fan bases. What did you think of the game and kind of that concept of teams being able to move around and play in different parks?
No, I love that. I know when they went, they had one in Australia and the UK and I think Puerto Rico, but I love the idea of, going to different places and that way, expand the game a little bit, get, have some fans there that, aren't able to catch some games. And, but yeah, the one in Iowa is really cool. Field of Dreams, great baseball movie. And the game itself.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow. Perfect for that game. But yeah, I'm huge on the idea of, expanding and playing in different places.
Do you have a location in mind? You're like, oh man, that would be the one that I'd want to be out there for.
I think it'd be cool if they did one. I'm kind of weird on this one. If they did one kind of, maybe in Wyoming or something where you had a mountains or something. But then again, I don't want to put a stadium in a national park.
Right.
So I'm kind of on the fence about that. But something along the lines of that would be pretty cool.
Could you put base paths in a national park? Yeah, that could be tough. But
yeah.
I feel for the sake of the game, I feel like that could work.
Yeah.
Something from the last, just stretch of the season for you guys that I'm just interested how it felt for you as the trade deadline was coming up. You were a name that was out there. People were saying, that there was a pretty good reliever market and that, you've got several years of control left. And that's something that obviously Dayton Moore's talked about. He likes his guys, to stick around. And so I don't know, were you thinking about that on a regular basis? Did you have a feeling that you were going to be able to still be in Kansas City after the deadline? What was that like?
Yeah, I was pretty comfortable with staying, just because I didn't really hear much. You would read stuff online, but I never heard anybody, firsthand from anybody. So even through that, players would joke oh, Barlow, because I would think they would read the same thing. But
right.
I was never really, concerned with that really.
You say guys joke about it, so people see and hear things, and then you see Danny Duffy, who does get traded, obviously, after an incredible career here, and obviously he's older and had 1 year left on his current deal. So whenever you see a veteran who's been in the clubhouse for a long time go, what's that moment like?
It's definitely tough. Danny, awesome guy. We loved him in the clubhouse. He kept us loose for sure. Even, being able to pick his brain through experience, just a wealth of knowledge for sure. So, that was definitely a very sad day to see him go, but, he's going back, to LA where he lives and grew up and everything. So, it's almost, it's bittersweet for sure.
I'll let you go on this, but I'm just always excited to talk to pitchers because I see it but I don't get it. Like, I don't understand what I'm seeing. The fact that, these micro inches on a baseball are things that totally change how it acts and how the ball moves and what you can do to hitters. What's one of the things that you think that generally people don't really understand that goes over our heads because we have no idea really how you're pulling that stuff off?
Yeah, I mean, even, when we watch videos and stuff, some guys are just so locked in that they're able to just throw the ball exactly where you want. So I think a lot of times, pitchers, we try to be perfect, but, a lot of times we're not.
Right.
So I think, we'll even watch pitchers, and I think, we'll understand, like, okay, he's missing on this side, so it's affecting this certain pitch.
Right.
And I think, I think a lot of people don't understand, like, maybe we're not as perfect as we're always wanting to be.
Sure.
There's some times when you go out and, we don't have our A stuff for sure. From day to day, you may be battling maybe a little fatigue. We'll have long stretches of games and everything. But, I think the hardest thing to understand is, sometimes we're not, perfect all the time. So.
Right. How early on? I know I said that was the last question, but you gave me something good. How early on do you know when you don't have your ace stuff? Is it in the bullpen that day? Is it once you're out there? Is it a certain number of pitches?
It's, for me at least. I mean, from my experience, it's usually when you first get in the game.
Yeah.
In the bullpen, I wouldn't say it's a great judge because there's plenty of times where in the bullpen, I don't know where the ball's going.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, let's just see what we got. And then when you get in the game mound, adrenaline kicks in. It's almost like primal instinct, and it's like, okay, I got it. It doesn't matter what you do in the bullpen. And then sometimes you're, in the bullpen, you're dialed in.
Yeah.
Like you're hitting everything. You're like, ooh, I'm going to go out in the game and feel real good. And then first ball up and away. It's like, what the heck? But it's usually, I would say, right first pitch of the game. It's whenever you get out there, you'll know.
That's Scott Barlow. I got to talk to him back on Saturday. Obviously, plenty of baseball has been played since then, but there are a number of things there that I just thought were like supremely interesting. Rudy, I'll let you pick kind of your favorite thing there, but I think, and we're probably going to share the same one because it's pretty interesting. The idea that you know when you don't have your best stuff. That's not shocking, I guess, but I don't think you think about that very often because you think about in football. You just assume you're always the same speed or you're always processing the offense the same or whatever.
For sure.
If you're a pitcher, and as Barlow says there, you go out there for your first pitch out of your hand, you go, oh God, maybe I got my B stuff or my C stuff today, or maybe this is going to go really, really poorly. That's something that is interesting on a level that I don't think I've heard from a whole lot of pitchers.
Yeah, like, and I've always kind of like, I guess, understood to a degree, or just like knew that pitchers, like some days the stuff just whatever the reason is, right? Like the fastball doesn't have as much spin on it, the breaking ball is just not breaking nearly as much. But like I've heard broadcasters frequently say like that's generally part of the bullpen, right? Like you learn this stuff in the bullpen, you figure out what pitches feel good and what pitches don't, and then that kind of like you then use that to build your game plan. To give you an idea of what's going to happen once you actually get out there.
Yeah.
But then when the reality is, like Scott Barlow says, it's like he doesn't. The reality is he doesn't know till he's out there.
Like, no correlation.
There is no kind of mental prepping, right? There is no talking with the catcher before you actually start to really actually pitch to the first batter. Like, hey, fastball's not feeling great, and maybe the catcher can tell. Oh, he obviously has a unique point of view, so maybe he's the one who tells. But it's interesting that the pitcher, like or at least for Scott Barlow, really doesn't know until he actually throws a pitch on the mound to a batter.
And there is something that we definitely have spent a lot of time talking about, where it's something that Lesky brought up, right after the All-Star break, really, where you go, oh, wow, the Royals pitching staff looks a whole lot better after the break.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because their arms aren't so dang tired.
Yes.
And so for Barlow to say, hey, if you sometimes you go out there with fatigue. You have long stretches of games. You're playing games every day. I mean, this is an issue in the game today on some level, like the bullpen availability late in the game. Because you're using these bullpen arms, and I understand the fatigue side of things, but I still think it, to kind of go back a little bit, I still think it's interesting the idea that you just aren't making a ball spin the way you want to, even though you could do it on Tuesday, but you come back out again on Thursday, and now it's just not spinning the same. The ball's not behaving the same, even though you believe you're doing everything the exact same way. That's, also talking about not having perfect stuff. Like, I understand that is the result, but it's just one of those things that makes baseball so unique and so finicky.
Yeah.
Baseball is a very finicky game.
There's so much, especially with pitching, like variables, right?
Yeah.
You know, the weather. If it's 5 degrees hotter, now all of a sudden your pitch might you might get more rotations than you normally do. If it's the wind's blowing just a couple miles per hour too hard, and if your release is just a degree off, the slightest thing, right? If Patrick Mahomes throws the ball, you know, he has a normal throwing motion. If that normal throwing motion is even affected by a degree, he can still throw the ball 70 yards down the field for a touchdown, right?
Right.
But a pitcher, now that's the difference between a strike and a ball. That's
Or on the black, or hanging right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Zone.
Yep. Like it's the reason why baseball is, really is one of the hardest sports. Even for hitting, you watch bad pitchers with fastballs that are 99, that are moving all over the place, and you're like, how does anybody hit this? And this guy's a bad pitcher.
Yep.
Like baseball is a crazy sport.
And so I very much appreciate the time of all the guys I got to talk to this week. If you missed any of it, you can go to the Almost Entirely Sports podcast page at aes.show. It'll take you to our splash page that gives you all the different places to subscribe, or just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. If you are just joining us now, here's what you missed this week. Daniel Sorensen, Tamba Hali, Derrick Nnadi, McCole Hardman, Jordy Nelson, Cornell Powell, Scott Barlow, you just heard, Brady Singer, Hunter Dozier, Nicky Lopez. Plus, we talked to David Lesky. We talked to Seth Kaiser. We had Ryan Tracy in studio for the first time ever. Matt Derrick, Aaron Schatz of Football Outsiders. I made it through our entire conversation with him without mispronouncing his name. Now wrapping up the week for us. I got it wrong there. That feels right. But Aaron Schatz, Football Outsiders. We just had a crazy week, absolutely jam-packed with all sorts of things. No show tomorrow night because the Chiefs' preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals will be playing. And so I'm going to be doing a pregame show from 6 to 7 here on these same airwaves, but no Almost Entirely Sports until next week. I'll talk to you on Friday. I'll talk to you on Sports Saturday morning. But for Almost Entirely Sports for the rest of the week, we'll talk to you on Monday. Until then, bye, Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on